Chapter 1. Courting Death. Big Brother Qin, I, Han Lingxian, am your woman in life and your ghost in death. No matter how many reincarnations, this love will never fade. Qin Hao, let's go. In this life we are brothers. I hope we can be brothers again in the next life. Ha. No. Lingxian, Zhan Wu, boom. The heavy stone door fell, isolating everything in front of him. It was as though the entire world had sunk into darkness. Where is this? I am still alive. I have been reborn. Qin Hao felt as though his head was about to split open, following which a wave of unfamiliar memories flooded him. In his previous life, he was the high and mighty Dendi, the king of Daqin in the divine wilderness continent. In order to find an opportunity to become a god, he brought along Han Lingxian and his only good brother, Zhan Wu, to charge into the gods' forbidden land, God Burial Valley. After overcoming all the dangers, they arrived at the God Burial Palace with injuries all over their bodies. Unexpectedly, they were besieged by dozens of Emperor-level experts. That was practically the strongest lineup in the entire continent. Originally, with Qin Hao's cultivation, he was not afraid of those people at all. Furthermore, he still had the sunset bow. Unfortunately, he had used up too much energy in the God Burial Valley. The sunset bow was not in his hands. Instead, it was in the hands of Zhan Wu. Zhan Wu became a god through battle and was respected by Qin Hao as his elder brother. After entering the God Burial Valley, it was Zhan Wu who blocked the front with the sunset bow. In short, the last thing that entered Qin Hao's eyes was his only good brother and his most beloved woman crazily holding back the enemies. That was a bloody scene. After Qin Hao came out, he still did not escape the fate of death. The enemies had already set up the 9 heavens gods' punishment array outside. The moment the heavily injured Qin Hao ran out, he was chopped into pieces. Qin Hao died and was reborn in the body of a 16-year-old youth. And this youth was also called Qin Hao. The moment the memories were fused, Qin Hao was completely dumbfounded. According to historical records, Dendi of Daqin died 600 years ago. After Dendi's death, not only did the Daqin not perish, it even established a new empress called Empress Lingxian. It was Han Lingxian, the one who said that she was Qin Hao's person in life and Qin Hao's ghost in death. In addition, after Zhan Wu obtained the Sunset Divine Bow, he changed his name to the Sunset Battle God and built a Battle God temple on the Sunset Peak. Sunset Peak was originally Qin Hao's holy land for cultivation. According to the historical records of Daqin, 600 years ago, the 4 generals of the empire rebelled and worked together to murder Dendi. Dendi and Qin Hao unfortunately fell. The entire empire was like a fallen leaf in a horrifying wave, almost collapsing. Han Lingxian used her status as the Pill Emperor's confidant to counterattack, and with the help of the Sunset Battle God, she heavily injured 4 of the empire's most powerful generals and preserved Great Qin's integrity. The 4 generals fled in defeat. Thus, Han Lingxian was elected as the empress. In order to prevent the rebels from coming back, the citizens of Daqin begged the Sunset Battle God to guard the Sunset Peak. Gradually, under the leadership of Empress Lingxian and the Sunset Battle God, the Daqin was completely stabilized. The citizens lived in peace and contentment, and young talents came out in large numbers. The entire empire's strength was rising day by day. Crack! Qin Hao punched the table beside the bed, and the entire table cracked. He ignored the blood on his hand and gritted his teeth. Han Lingxian, Zhan Wu, you, ha ha, ha ha ha. Qin Hao raised his head and laughed crazily. How could he not know that this was a trap, a scam to get him killed? Qin Hao became an emperor with alchemy. His alchemy was unparalleled in the world, and everyone was terrified. Han Lingxian and Zhan Wu set up this trap and let the other emperor-level powerhouses cooperate in this play. The others were naturally willing to help. They couldn't wait for Qin Hao to die. Because Qin Hao's alchemy was too terrifying, and he also had a killing weapon, the sunset bow. The 4 generals of the Qin kingdom were all emperor-level powerhouses cultivated by Qin Hao with alchemy. Qin Hao knew in his heart that the 4 of them would never rebel. They were all his most loyal subordinate. No, it should be said that they were his disciples. The 4 generals must have noticed that Qin Hao's death was strange. They refused to accept Han Lingxuan's rule and wanted to take revenge. As a result, they were viciously convicted of treason by Han Lingxian, and were brutally injured by Zhan Wu. Good, very good. You're really my good brother, you're really my good confidant. What do you mean you're my person in life and my ghost in death? This feeling will never die. What bullshit brothers in the next life. Back then, Han Lingxian was just a wild girl saved by Qin Hao. Zhan Wu was also a coal worker that he fished out of the coal mine. Along the way, Qin Hao refined alchemy for them and taught them cultivation method. One looked at him as a confidant, and the other respected him as an elder brother. But they made Qin Hao die without a complete corpse. The heavens have eyes, and let me, Qin Hao, live another life. What's mine, I'll take it all back. What you owe me, are you ready to pay it back? The hatred in Qin Hao's eyes became more and more intense. Dendi was not dead, and this snake woman dared to call herself an emperor? Dendi was not dead, and Zhan Wu, who dug coal, was also worthy of being called a god. Let go of me. I won't marry, evil thief, let go of our young lady. You still dare to stop me, beat me? Ha ha ha, in the midst of the shock. The noise outside the room woke Qin Hao up. Then, there was the sound of punches and kicks. What's going on? Qin Hao immediately got out of bed and looked outside through the window. He saw that the courtyard was full of people. There was a young girl in the courtyard. She had a graceful figure and looked pure and clean. She was breathtakingly beautiful. She was crying like a pear blossom in the rain. She was being dragged outside by her arms. Beside the young girl, there was an old woman and a middle-aged man. The old woman was pushed to the ground, and the middle-aged man was beaten by 5 or 6 people. This was a scene of kidnapping a young girl. And that young girl was his younger sister, Xiaohan. No, to be precise, she was this body's younger sister. Fine, since I've taken over your body, I'll stand up for you. Qin Hao did not have time to think. He immediately activated the alchemy technique from his previous life. This body was too weak. Luckily, there was a stream of medicinal energy flowing through his body. With the help of this medicinal energy, he was able to break through to the first layer of body tempering realm. Qin Hao did not have much feelings for the young girl in front of him. However, as an emperor, he would never owe anyone a favor. At the same time, he saw that the person leading the group was only at the second layer of body tempering stage. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. As the former Dendi, a first layer of body tempering stage was enough to kill a second layer of body tempering stage. Stop! Qin Hao shouted and stepped out of the room. His body was faintly emitting the aura of a dragon. With his shout, the chaotic scene immediately quieted down. Everyone's gaze turned to Qin Hao. Isn't this the big trash of the Qin clan? Cough cough, young Master Qin Hao. You actually really came back to life. A middle-aged man with the head of a deer and the eyes of a rat sneered. His words carried a strong sense of ridicule. His name was Song Zhong. He was the lackey of the Zhuang family's young master. He was the one who led the group. Whoa, brother Qin Hao. Seeing that Qin Hao woke up safely, the young girl's face flashed with joy. Then, she cried even more violently. While no one was paying attention, she broke free and ran towards Qin Hao. When Qin Hao heard the call, his soul trembled. He unconsciously opened his arms and hugged the young girl. It's young master. Young master really woke up. Master, madam, please bless us. Young master really woke up. Following Qin Hao's awakening, the old woman and the middle-aged man who had fallen to the ground were crying. Mother Fu, Uncle Lu, what happened? According to his memories, Qin Hao knew the old woman's and the middle-aged man's names. What happened? You accidentally ate the poisonous grass. Our young master is very kind and has bestowed you with a heart protection pill. Of course, as a price, Miss Xiao Han is willing to marry into the Zhuang family to be our young master's concubine. Today we are here to pick her up. Before the old woman could speak, Song Zhong raised his head and said, with his arrogant manner, how was he here to pick her up? He was obviously here to snatch her. What? After Qin Hao heard this, his heart couldn't help but tremble. He lowered his head to look at the young girl in his arms. The tears on her face made his heart ache. In his previous life, Qin Hao treated Han Lingxian and Zhan Wu so well. However, the other party killed him without a complete corpse. In this life, in order to save him, Xiao Han actually exchanged her body for medicine. Ha ha ha! The heavens have treated me well. Boiling hot blood flowed through his chest. Qin Hao suddenly let out a maniacal laugh. If it was said that he didn't have any feelings for Xiao Han before, then at this moment, Qin Hao would definitely protect this young girl. He looked at Song Zhong coldly. Daring to snatch someone from Dendi. Chapter 2. The might of an emperor. Seeing Qin Hao laugh, Song Zhong was puzzled. Could it be that he was scared silly? Waving his hands, he said, Enough, calling you young Master Qin is giving old Master Qin some face. If you know what's good for you, scram to one side. Men, bring Miss Xiao Han away. Yes. The Zhuang family's men received the order and surrounded them. Xiao Han revealed a look of fear and nervousness. But, the moment she saw Qin Hao, the fear in her eyes turned into helplessness. She pursed her lips and took the initiative to walk towards him. She was worried that Qin Hao would resist Song Zhong and be beaten up by the Zhuang family. For Qin Hao, no matter how unwilling she was, she had to become someone's concubine. In the end, she could not even take a step forward. Brother Qin Hao. Xiao Han turned around in shock and saw a determined face. Qin Hao was grabbing her hand tightly, not allowing her to take a step forward. With me around, no one can touch you. Qin Hao stared at Song Zhong with a gaze as sharp as a sword, his tone resolute. Song Zhong frowned and felt embarrassed. He said fiercely, I gave you face but you don't want it. A trash who can't cultivate and can only eat and wait for death dares to challenge me. What are you all waiting for? Let's go. Song Zhong pointed at Qin Hao. The Zhuang family's men looked at each other and did not dare to step forward. Now that Qin Hao was blocking them, he was not a servant like Mother Blessing or Uncle Lu, but the grandson of old Master Qin. Although he was an unimportant grandson, he was still the blood of the Qin family. If they beat him up, who knows if they would still be alive to see the sun rise tomorrow. A bunch of trash. Song Zhong shouted in embarrassment and walked towards Qin Hao personally. As he walked, he scolded, just a trash who was abandoned. Others may be afraid of you, but this daddy here is not. Don't touch my young master. Uncle Lu crawled up from the ground and tried to stop Song Zhong. Scram! Song Zhong did not even look and punched Uncle Lu's chest. Gotcha! Following the sound of bones breaking, Uncle Lu spat out blood and flew out. Creak! Qin Hao clenched his fists tightly and stared at Song Zhong with an even colder gaze. How is it? Have you seen my prowess? Get out of my way! Song Zhong came in front of Qin Hao, raised his head arrogantly, and poked his chest with a finger. Qin Hao was protecting Xiao Han, he did not move Qin Hao, Song Zhong. Don't force me to take action, scram. Song Zhong poked Qin Hao's chest again. Qin Hao still didn't move half a step. B***ST**RD. I asked you to scram, did you hear me? Song Zhong flew into a rage and poked him again. Qin Hao still didn't move. Little bastard. You're just a piece of trash with dead parents who can't cultivate. You're a piece of trash, pa. Without waiting for Song Zhong to poke him for the fourth time, Qin Hao gave him a backhanded slap on his face. The strength of the slap was so great that Song Zhong spun 3 rounds on the spot, with 2 broken teeth flying towards his head. In this world, no one dares to poke my chest 3 times. You are the first. You deserve the extermination of your entire family. You! Song Zhong was stunned by the slap. Pa! Qin Hao raised his hand and slapped him again. You dare to hit my people in front of me! Pa! You dare not kneel in front of me, damn it, Pa! You are only at the 2nd layer of body tempering stage. You are like feces polluting my eyes, Qin Hao. Song Zhong could not believe that a trash had slapped him so many times. Pa! No matter what I become, you are not qualified to judge me. Even if I am a trash, I am still the young master of the Qin family. And you will forever be a dog. Qin Hao slapped Song Zhong 5 to 6 times consecutively. Song Zhong's nose was bruised and his face was swollen. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. The surrounding people were all dumbfounded. Ah! I will kill you! Song Zhong's eyes were red after he realized what had happened. What kind of person was Qin Hao? He was a trash who had been sick since he was young and could die if he took a breath. No matter how low Song Zhong's status was, he was still an elemental cultivator. Furthermore, he was at the 2nd layer of body tempering stage. In a moment of carelessness, he was slapped by Qin Hao 5 to 6 times consecutively. If this were to spread, Song Zhong would not have the face to live anymore. In an instant, his strength as a 2nd layer of body tempering stage exploded. He raised his fist and punched towards Qin Hao's head. Only fresh blood could wash away his shame. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Song Zhong really dared to hit Qin Hao. Xiao Han, who was hiding behind Qin Hao, was so scared that she screamed. Qin Hao did not even have the strength to truss up a chicken. If this punch landed, would he still be able to survive? On the other hand, Qin Hao stood in place without retreating. He was as calm as still water in an ancient well, without any ripples. And, just as the fist was about to hit him, Qin Hao's hand wrapped around it like a snake. This was the Yuan skill that he practiced in his previous life, a bone-splitting dragon hand. In the divine wilderness continent, from strong to weak, they were divided into 4 grades: heaven, earth, black and yellow. Every grade was further divided into high, middle and low grades. In his previous life, Qin Hao had already perfected his own Yuan skill to the highest grade. Bone-splitting dragon hand. Broke the tendons and bones, and internal injuries could cause disability. Kacha Qin Hao wrapped his arm around Song Zhong's fist and exerted all his strength to press down. Song Zhong's entire arm was bent at a 90-degree angle. Song Zhong let out a heart-wrenching scream and fell to the ground. His arm was dislocated and hung down. What, this? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? The surrounding people were in an uproar. The scene of Qin Hao being beaten to death did not happen. Instead, Song Zhong, who was at the 2nd stage of body tempering, lost an arm. Song Zhong was in so much pain that his face was covered in sweat. He lay on the ground twitching. What about you? Jumping clown, killing you would dirty my hand. Get out of my sight. Go back and tell your master, if he wants Xiao Han to be his concubine, he will bring his dog's head to me. Qin Hao stood with his hands behind his back, imperceptibly exuding the aura of a monarch. Little bastard! How dare you humiliate me and look down on my young master's dignity? I want you to die without a burial ground. Song Zhong was enraged to the point of madness. His eyes were full of viciousness. His left hand reached into his bosom and took out a black pellet. He ruthlessly threw it at Qin Hao. My God, it's a lightning fire pellet. Housekeeper Song is crazy. Young master, get out of the way. At this moment, whether it was the Zhuang family's hired thugs, Uncle Lu or Mother Fu, they were all frightened by Song Zhong's crazy actions. Even the lowest grade thunder fire pellet had the destructive power of a 5th stage body tempering cultivator. Once it came into contact with a human body, it would turn into a raging flame and burn the person alive. Song Zhong was unrepentant. He was determined to kill Qin Hao. Haha, it's been 600 years. I didn't expect this little thing to still exist, Qin Hao smiled. His smile was like the spring breeze. When he saw the thunder fire pellet, his face rippled with nostalgia. The world's first thunder fire pellet was made by Qin Hao Dendi. No one knew how to use it better than him. Turning around, he waved his sleeves, pa. The thunder fire pellet was pulled back by Qin Hao's sleeves, directly exploding on Song Zhong's face. Boom, a ball of purple flames rose in front of everyone's eyes. In the raging fire, Song Zhong did not even have time to scream before he was burned to ashes. In less than half a minute, only a pile of ashes was left on the ground. Chapter 3. Divine Void Cauldron. This housekeeper song is dead. Run! Go back and tell young master. In an instant, the Zhuang family's hired thugs scattered and scrambled out of the courtyard. At this moment, they all felt that Qin Hao was very strange. The thunder fireball that Song Zhong threw out did not burn the opponent to death, but it was Qin Hao who burned him to death. A dog that bullies others, even death can't wipe out his crimes. Qin Hao looked at the black residue on the ground without a shred of sympathy. After the thunder fireball was thrown out, there was a certain cooldown time. Back then, Qin Hao had tested it many times. Especially for such a low-grade item, the cooldown time was even longer. Just now, Song Zhong was determined to kill Qin Hao and threw it too quickly. The thunder fireball was not activated yet. It was only after Qin Hao's attack that the thunder fireball's power was fully activated. Young master! Brother Qin Hao! Xiao Han and Uncle Lu were dumbfounded. Qin Hao was too strong, as if he had suddenly changed into a different person. Haha! Qin Hao smiled and was about to speak. At this moment, a tall and skinny youth snorted, "Good, Qin Hao, you really have the ability to kill Song Zhong. Zhuang Hebo will definitely not let this matter rest. Our Qin family is going to have a good life. Let's see how you explain this to grandfather." His name was Qin Duping, Qin Hao's cousin. How I explain this to grandfather is my business. It's not up to you to interfere. Don't forget, I am the successor of the family. Qin Hao's eyes turned cold again. He did not have a good impression of this cousin who came to watch the show. You have guts, just you wait, let's go. Qin Duping pointed at Qin Hao provocatively and left with his men. The family was very strict, forbidding the disciples from fighting. They were not allowed to touch Qin Hao. When he heard that Song Zhong wanted to steal the bride, he was happy to watch the show. The most hateful thing was that Song Zhong failed to steal the bride and even lost his life. What a good-for-nothing. However, the more Qin Duping thought about it, the stranger he felt. Qin Hao should have been killed by Qin Hao with a single punch. Why did Song Zhong cripple his arm instead? Could it be that he ate the heart protection pill and broke through the first layer of body tempering realm? Qin Duping nodded. That must be it. The heart protection pill was a miraculous pill. It had the effect of unblocking one's meridians. Breaking through to the first layer of body tempering realm was nothing special. If Qin Duping were to consume it, he might be able to break through from the third layer to the fourth layer of body tempering realm. He didn't expect that Qin Hao would be able to take advantage of him. Song Zhong deserved to lose an arm due to his carelessness. As for being burnt to death by the lightning fireball, Qin Duping did not even put it to heart. It was definitely because of the quality of Song Zhong's lightning fireball. I'll wait for you. We'll settle our scores slowly. Qin Hao looked at Qin Duping's back and unconsciously clenched his fist. His eyes were filled with intense hatred. This was an instinctive reaction of the body, not Qin Hao's own emotions. Brother Qin Hao. You, Xiao Han looked at Qin Hao in front of her. She felt that he was both familiar and unfamiliar. It was as if she had just had a dream. I'm fine. Qin Hao patted Xiao Han's shoulder and turned to look at Mother Blessing. Uncle Lu's injuries are not light. Help him down to recuperate first. I'll explain it to you later. Yes, young master. Mother Blessing respectfully nodded and helped Lu Yu leave. She watched Qin Hao grow up. Even if she felt that something was strange, she still had absolute trust in him. Silly girl, what's wrong with you? Qin Hao pinched Xiao Han's little face. This girl was very sensible and considerate. Brother Qin Hao, I feel like you're a stranger, Xiao Han murmured. Just now when Qin Hao was beating Song Zhong, he kept calling him Zhen. I survived a great disaster and accidentally obtained a good fortune. Qin Hao had no choice but to fabricate a lie. Good fortune? Xiao Han looked confused. Yes. Qin Hao sighed slightly and slowly explained. He said that after eating the poisonous grass, his soul went out of his body and entered the void. In his dream, he met a peerless expert. The expert said that he was fated with Qin Hao, so he taught him some cultivation method. He also enlightened Qin Hao and got rid of the root of the illness in his body. Just now, it was that expert who possessed his body and taught Qin Hao a lesson. Really? That's great. Xiao Han was surprised at first, then she couldn't help but clap her hands and smile. She looked even happier than Qin Hao. She didn't doubt Qin Hao's words. Things like soul going out of body did happen. She just didn't expect that such a great opportunity would be encountered by Qin Hao. In that case, Brother Qin Hao can cultivate in the future. And I will protect you. Qin Hao nodded seriously. Woo-woo, Xiao Han laughed and laughed, then cried again. Silly girl, why are you crying again? Qin Hao couldn't stand girls crying, so he quickly wiped away Xiao Han's tears. I'm happy, I'm happy. If father and mother's spirits in heaven knew, they would be very happy. Xiao Han rubbed her red eyes. I will make them proud, incomparably proud. Qin Hao was full of confidence. Did that expert take brother as his disciple? Xiao Han asked. He is a peerless expert, why would he take a liking to me? Qin Hao didn't want to be entangled in this matter, so as not to expose that he was another soul. When he saw a flash of disappointment on Xiao Han's face, Qin Hao continued, even if he doesn't take me as his disciple, I, Qin Hao, will be a dragon among men, a king among dragons. Qin Hao didn't lie half-heartedly, because he was the strongest dendi in his previous life, so he had enough capital. I believe in brother Qin Hao, but… Zhuang Heba, Xiao Han looked worried. The Zhuang Heba she was talking about was the eldest young master of the Zhuang family. Qin Hao killed Song Zhong, so Zhuang Heba wouldn't let it go. Don't worry, I will take care of the rest. I'm also tired, so I'll go back to my room to rest. Qin Hao patted Xiao Han's shoulder comfortingly, telling her to relax, then he turned and walked back to his room. I have always believed in brother Qin Hao, you are the best. One day, big brother Qin Hao will definitely be able to step into the Dragon Emperor city, stand shoulder to shoulder with those heaven's chosen ones, and be admired by tens of thousands of people. Xiao Han shouted at Qin Hao's back. Qin Hao stopped in his tracks and turned his head to the east. In the haze, he seemed to see a majestic city. That was the Dragon Emperor city that he built single-handedly. Stand shoulder to shoulder? Haha, they don't have that right, they are only fit to tremble at my feet. Qin Hao thought to himself. Not to mention those geniuses, even if it was the high and mighty Empress Ling Xian, Qin Hao would definitely kick her down from the throne. Also, Zhan Wu, he actually took over his Sunset God-level peak and even cheated Qin Hao of his divine tool, the Sunset Bow. Just wait, I will come back to find you. In life, you are my person, and in death, you are my ghost? Bitch, you are not worthy. Be brothers in the next life? No. I want you to repent in the underworld. Qin Hao was so angry that his gums were about to bleed. He stepped into his room, closed the door, and started to organize his thoughts. He remembered clearly that his body was destroyed by the 9 heavens God-killing array. That array was so powerful that it could even destroy the souls of gods and demons. Why didn't he die, and was reborn 600 years later? Could it be, suddenly, Qin Hao thought of something. When he was tricked by Zhan Wu into going to the Valley of the Gods, they had broken through countless traps and guardian beasts. When they reached the Temple of the Gods, they really found a treasure, the Great Void Cauldron. It was said that it was left behind by the only person who had become a god. Just as Qin Hao was one step ahead, and kept the Great Void Cauldron in his bag, unexpectedly, more than 10 Emperor-level powerhouses suddenly barged into the main hall. When Zhan Wu saw that the Great Void Cauldron was taken away by Qin Hao, he tricked him into stepping on the god-killing array, hoping that after Qin Hao died, he would take the Great Void Cauldron for himself. However, he never expected that Qin Hao would be reborn. The magic weapon of a god-level powerhouse is unpredictable. If it was its power that allowed me to be reborn, it must still be with me. But where is it? Qin Hao scanned his body. His clothes were not his, and he did not have the Qianquan bag from his previous life. Where was it? Here. Chapter 4. Hurry up and run. He immediately probed with his mind. In his mind, a small cauldron glowing purple and gold floated quietly. The body of the cauldron was engraved with dense runes. It was only the size of an incense burner, extremely pocket-sized. But when facing it, he felt as if he was looking up at a towering mountain. This is the artifact of a god-level powerhouse, the Great Void Cauldron, Qin Hao exclaimed. At this moment, the Great Void Cauldron suddenly glowed purple. The runes on it all left the cauldron and rushed toward Qin Hao, entering his forehead. Qin Hao let out a cry of pain and immediately retracted his mind. He felt a stabbing pain in his head. But this pain only lasted for a moment. After the pain, Qin Hao's eyes lit up. It was a look of surprise, but there was also a hint of shock in his surprise. This is a real divine artifact, Qin Hao exclaimed. The weapons in the world could be divided into mortal weapons, sharp weapons, lethal weapons, holy weapons, and divine artifact. Real divine artifacts were already extinct. Without hundreds or even thousands of years of effort, forging one was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The sunset bow in his previous life was at most a semi-god artifact. The Great Void Cauldron in front of him was a real divine artifact. Ha ha ha! Qin Hao couldn't help but laugh wildly. No one knew better than him how terrifying divine artifacts were. In his previous life, why were so many people afraid of him? It was because Qin Hao had a sunset bow that could kill an emperor-level powerhouse. He started forging the sunset bow when he was 20 years old. It took him 300 years to perfect it to its current power. But it couldn't compare to a real divine artifact. Even so, it could kill an expert of the same level. So, emperor-level powerhouses all hoped that Qin Hao would die. Zhan Wu had cheated Qin Hao of his sunset bow in the Valley of the Gods. The sunset bow was too powerful. It was so powerful that even Qin Hao didn't have the confidence to face it. Now, with the Great Void Cauldron in his hands, Qin Hao felt the joy of regaining what he had lost. If he were to face Zhan Wu in the future, he would not fear him at all. My current cultivation is too low. Even if I have a powerful divine artifact, I won't be able to unleash its full power. Right now, becoming stronger is the most important thing. Qin Hao's thoughts were calm as he suppressed his excitement. Now, he did not even have the ability to summon the Great Void Cauldron. Only by becoming stronger. Become stronger. Become even stronger. He was even stronger than in his previous life. Cultivate the endless cycle of reincarnation. Control the life and death of millions. Endless cycle of reincarnation technique. Qin Hao closed his eyes and pondered. An ancient cultivation technique immediately appeared in his mind. The runes engraved on the cauldron just now were a set of cultivation methods called the immortal samsara technique. The cultivation techniques of the divine wilderness continent were divided into 4 grades: heaven, earth, black, and yellow. Heaven grade was the highest and yellow grade the lowest. The indestructible samsara technique was a divine tier cultivation technique that transcended the mortal world. It was above the heaven tier. It was divided into 9 levels, and each level corresponded to a cultivation level. The first stage was body tempering, which corresponded to the body tempering realm. After mastering it, one would be able to obtain strength far surpassing that of others. For example, when others were in the body tempering realm, they had the strength of 500 kilograms and could smash a boulder into pieces. Qin Hao cultivated the indestructible samsara technique, but he had the strength of 1,500 kilograms, which was enough to smash a boulder into powder. This was a huge difference. The indestructible samsara technique had 9 levels. It was destined that Qin Hao would far surpass his opponents in every realm in the future. With 9 levels stacked together, the power was unimaginable. Oh my God, this is simply cheating. At this moment, even Dendi was so shocked that his mouth was wide open. But why did it only have 9 levels? Didn't that mean that the indestructible samsara technique could only be used until Qin Hao cultivated to the level of Emperor Yuan again? What about after Emperor Yuan? Qin Hao didn't care about being an emperor-level powerhouse anymore. He wanted to become a god, pa. Qin Hao slapped his forehead and laughed foolishly. The indestructible samsara technique had 9 levels. Once all 9 levels were perfected, one could naturally become a god. Okay. I have the alchemy technique from my previous life to protect my body. Now, I also have the divine artifact Great Void Cauldron and the divine technique Indestructible Samsara technique. Just you wait, Zhan Wu. Within 100 years, I will definitely return to Dragon Emperor City and beat you until you can't even cry. And Han Lingxian, you have to sit on that dragon throne for me. At this moment, Qin Hao was full of confidence. It was as if he had become the high-spirited emperor of Daqin again. It was a pity that he couldn't tell who was a virtuous minister and who was a traitor at that time. The most loyal 4 generals were also persecuted by Zhan Wu and Han Lingxian because of him. Zhan Lang, Yufeng, Qingqing, Xinyue. I have harmed you all. Don't worry, I will repay you all. Thinking of those 4 subordinates, Qin Hao couldn't help but feel a little sad. If they didn't die, Qin Hao swore that he would definitely find them. Moreover, he would agree to what they had always wanted. That was to admit that they were his disciples. Akita Town. Akita Town was located at the most remote border of Jiang country's Xiliang continent. There were 3 powerful clans in the town. Qin, Zhua, Zhuang. The 3 clans kept each other in check. The Qin family that Qin Hao belonged to was one of them. However, he was a child that wasn't valued, even if the blood of the Qin family flowed in his veins. Qin Hao's father was the eldest in the family and was the former head of the family. 3 years ago, when he went out to do business, he and Qin Hao's mother were ambushed together. Both of them died, leaving only Qin Hao as the only child. According to the Qin family's rules, Qin Hao should be the successor of the family. However, he was born with a weak constitution and couldn't cultivate. As a result, the great young master of the Qin family became a joke in the eyes of others. Not to mention outsiders, even the maids and servants in the residence called him a good-for-nothing in private. They said that he was better off dead than wasting food. In the past 2 years, the servants in the east courtyard either left or ran away secretly. No one took care of the courtyard, and it became more and more desolate. In the end, Qin Hao was only left with Mother Blessing and Uncle Lu. There was also Xiao Han. Speaking of Xiao Han, she wasn't Qin Hao's biological sister. She was an orphan who was adopted by his parent. 15 years ago, the second year of Qin Hao's birth. On a snowy night, someone placed a baby girl at the entrance of the Qin residence. The baby girl had a jade pendant with the words, Xiao Han engraved on it. His parents pitied her, so they adopted her and named her Xiao Han. Young master, it's not good. The young master of the Zhuang family is here. You'd better hide. Lu Yu and Miss Ji can't stop them. Mother Blessing shouted in a panicked tone. Zhuang Ji was most likely here to take revenge. In the room, Qin Hao opened his eyes slightly. His gaze was deep, and the corners of his mouth curled up. The pitiful thing about idiots is that they're looking for death. Qin Hao hadn't gone to look for Zhuang Ji, but Zhuang Ji had come to him first. He came so quickly. He must be in a hurry to be reincarnated. Qin Hao got out of bed and put on his clothes slowly. He clenched his fists slightly. His fists were strong and full of energy. My strength has indeed improved. That night, Qin Hao had been meditating in his room, cultivating the indestructible samsara technique. Although he had a slow start, his strength was obviously higher than others since he was at body tempering stage 1. Clang! The door was pushed open by Mother Blessing. Without saying anything, she grabbed Qin Hao's arm and ran out. Young master, don't be stubborn anymore. Listen to me this time. You're the only son of the First Lady. Run, run! Mother Blessing was crying as she ran with Qin Hao. The First Lady she was talking about was Qin Hao's mother. She used to be the maid of Qin Hao's mother. Don't cry. I'll listen to you. Qin Hao felt a little sad. He gently shook off the old woman's hand, turned around, and walked away. He was heading towards the main hall where Zhuang Ji was. Chapter 5. A month's time. East Courtyard Main Hall. As the former residence of the head of the Qin family, this place used to be bustling with noise and servants bustling about. Now it was completely desolate, and it had already fallen to the point of being wantonly bullied by outsiders. At this moment, Zhuang Heba brought a group of people over and blocked the door completely. Speak, where did that bastard Qin Hao hide? If not, I will make sure that all of you will suffer a fate worse than death. A burly young man, who was about 1.8 meters tall, blocked the stone steps and shouted angrily. On his square face, 3 wrinkles could be seen. Coupled with his loud voice, he looked just like a ferocious tiger. This person was the young master of the Zhuang family, Songzhong's master, Zhuang Heba. In the room, Xiao Han's eyes were filled with fear and her body was trembling. However, her gaze was resolute and she did not lower her head no matter how afraid she was. Lu Yu was also injured as he stood beside Xiao Han with a wooden rod in his hands. He stared warily at the group of people behind Zhuang Heba. That group of people were all dressed in black armor and had swords by their waist. Lu Yu recognized them as the strongest devil squad in the Zhuang family. Are you going to speak or not? Where did Qin Hao hide? Zhuang Heba roared again. His voice was extremely loud and his roar was like thunder. As he roared, Xiao Han almost fell to the ground in fear. Are you looking for me? Suddenly, a voice sounded by his side. This voice came so suddenly that it gave Zhuang Heba a fright. Qin Hao, you are seeking death. After seeing who it was, Zhuang Heba's eyes widened and he stretched out his hands towards Qin Hao's neck like a ghost. Humph! Qin Hao coldly snorted and moved his feet in a strange manner. Pung! Zhuang Heba brushed past Qin Hao's body and smashed into a pillar in the corridor. In the end, he did not manage to choke Qin Hao and smashed his head. Chi! Lu Yu could not help but burst out into laughter. The faces of the devil squad outside were also flushed red. Zhuang Heba touched his forehead. I'm bleeding. In an instant, his expression changed drastically, and his anger grew even stronger. Zhuang Heba, don't blame me for not reminding you. Recognize where you are. You want to attack me? Try it again. Qin Hao's tone was full of warning. At the same time, his eyes were looking outside the courtyard. Zhuang Heba followed his gaze and saw that the courtyard was filled with people. The door was so crowded that not even a drop of water could pass through. A row. 2 rows. 3 rows. 4 rows. There were more than a dozen rows, and at a glance, there were more than 100 people. All of them were tall and strong, with sharp swords in their hands. They were the guards of the Qin residence. His meaning was obvious. Even if Qin Hao was an unvalued disciple, it didn't mean that Zhuang Heba could do whatever he wanted in the Qin mansion. Otherwise, if they really thought that the Qin family was easy to bully, where would old Master Qin put his face? Seeing this scene, Zhuang Heba's eyelids violently twitched a few times. He thought that if anything happened to Qin Hao today, he wouldn't be able to walk out of here in one piece. Humph, regarding Song Zhong, you must give me an explanation. Explain? He's just a servant. He humiliated me first, why should I give you an explanation? Song Zhong's name is full of bad luck. Do you want to keep him alive to send you off or to send your father off? Qin Hao said coldly. Qin Hao, don't go overboard. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? Zhuang Heba gritted his teeth and glared. The emotions that he had just calmed down exploded again. Stop acting. If you wanted to kill me, you would have done it long ago. That was just an act. Qin Hao shook his head. Zhuang Heba had the strength of a 5th-layer body tempering cultivator. He didn't even need to strangle someone to kill. His acting was quite good, even smashing his head. It would be a waste if such a person didn't go play football. Don't use Song Zhong's death as an excuse. You came here today just to show off and humiliate me. Then, you can bring Xiao Han away. Let me tell you, there's no way. Qin Hao said resolutely. You're forcing me. Zhuang Heba's gaze turned cold. At this moment, there wasn't a trace of anger in his body. There was only killing intent in his eyes, true killing intent. Who dares to touch my young master? Lu Yu took a step forward and blocked in front of Qin Hao with a rod. If you dare to touch brother Qin Hao, you'll have to step over my dead body. Xiao Han suppressed the fear in his heart and stood out. Me too. Mother Blessing caught up while panting. She stood side by side with Xiao Han and Lu Yu in a row. An old woman, a young girl, and a loyal servant covered in injuries were protecting the young man behind them. Qin Hao was stunned. He shook his head and separated the people in front of him. I don't want to say the same thing twice. If you want to fight, then go ahead. If you don't want to be the future master of the Zhuang family, you can take my life. With the guards of the Qin family outside, Qin Hao didn't believe that Zhuang Heba would dare to attack unless he wanted to sacrifice the entire Zhuang family. Once he attacked, the two families would definitely fight because of their reputation. Maybe the Qin family might not be a match for the Zhuang family, but there was still the Zhou family in town. The moment the Qin family was destroyed, the Zhuang family would be done for as well. At that time, the old man of the Zhou family would be able to blow them thousands of miles away with a casual breath. Qin Hao grasped this subtle situation. Although he looked nervous now, he knew that he was very safe. You have guts. Zhuang Heba gritted his teeth in hatred. He still refused to leave because he was unwilling to accept this. That heart protection pill was extremely precious, but it was eaten by Qin Hao. How about this? Let's each take a step back. It's not impossible for you to marry Xiao Han, but let's see if you have the ability. Qin Hao said. What do you mean? Zhuang Heba asked. 1 month. Qin Hao raised a finger. 1 month later, it will be the hunting season of the 3 noble families. The person Xiao Han is going to marry must be the strongest person among the younger generation in town. Right, girl? Qin Hao turned around and looked at Xiao Han. There was a hint of a smile in his eyes, as if he was hinting at something. Xiao Han nodded as if they had read each other's minds. That's right. The person I'm going to marry must be a hero. He must be the #1 genius of Akita town. Alright. Zhuang Heba shouted in a deep voice. He was instantly filled with pride. "I'll definitely take the first place in the hunting season and show everyone that I, Zhuang Heba, am the hero of this town. However, words are not proof. Why should I believe you?" Zhuang Heba was not someone to be trifled with. What if Qin Hao went back on his words? Qin Hao had already expected this. He raised his hand and threw a piece of paper to Zhuang Heba. Zhuang Heba caught the paper and looked at it. He could not help but smile. Without saying anything, he bit his finger and pressed his fingerprint on the paper. It said, "The day Zhuang Heba takes the first place in the hunting season will be the day he marries Xiao Han." "Ha ha! Qin Hao, just you wait. I'll make you pay with a girl and embarrass yourself. I've already broken through the 5th stage of the body tempering stage. Taking the first place will be as easy as taking something out of my pocket. You'll lose for sure." Zhuang Heba licked his lips and looked at Xiao Han with a lustful gaze. He had to admit that Qin Hao, this trash, had a good girl. That face, that figure, that elegant temperament. When I take the first place in the hunting season, I'll definitely play with her to death. Let's go. Zhuang Heba waved his hand and left the Qin residence with his men. Before leaving, he turned back to look at Qin Hao. He heard that when Song Zhong died, Qin Hao's behavior was very strange. Now that he looked at it again, it was indeed a little strange. When Zhuang Heba hit his head just now, he was not pretending. Qin Hao had indeed dodged his attack. Qin Hao Gij. Chapter 6. Golden Fingershe didn't expect Qin Hao to hint at her to marry into the Zhuang family. Zhuang Heba was cruel and ruthless. She wouldn't have a good ending if she fell into his hands. "Do you trust me?" Qin Hao looked at Xiao Han seriously. "I trust you, young master," Lu Yu said. "You must have a plan for letting Zhuang Heba take first place in the hunt." Could it be, Lu Yu suddenly realized something. "You want to ask young Master Zhua to help us take first place in the hunt?" The rich hunt was a competition between the Qin, Zhua, and Zhuang families. The winner would have the mining rights of the West Mountain. Zhuang Heba was powerful, but Zhua Junshin wasn't easy to deal with. It was said that Zhua Junshin had broken through to body tempering stage 4 and had mastered the mountain splitting palm. Not only Zhua Junshin, but Qin Dapeng of the Qin family, Qin Hao's cousin, was also one of the candidates. However, Lu Yu knew that Qin Hao wouldn't ask Qin Dapeng for help. He could only ask Zhua Junshin. Once Zhua Junshin took first place in the hunt, Zhuang Heba wouldn't be able to marry Xiao Han. No. Qin Hao shook his head. Zhua Junshin isn't Zhuang Heba's match. As for Qin Dapeng, he's even worse. Lu Yu was speechless. Since young master knew that Zhua Junshin wasn't Zhuang Heba's match and still agreed to the hunt, wouldn't he be pushing Xiao Han into the fire pit? Qin Hao smiled. "I want to participate in the hunt myself." "What?" Mother Blessing was shocked. The hunt wasn't a joke. It was a real hunt. Those who weren't strong enough would definitely die. "What? You don't trust me?" Qin Hao raised his eyebrows. "I trust big brother Qin Hao." Xiao Han came to Qin Hao's side and looked at him with confidence. Qin Hao wasn't a reckless person. After the incident with the poisonous grass, he had become very calm. Xiao Han knew that Qin Hao had an expert guiding him. If he said that he was going to take first place in the hunt, then he must be confident. "Since young master has made up his mind, let's go." Lu Yu sighed. Since Xiao Han had already said so, he had no reason to stop him. However, at this moment, his eyes flickered as if he had something to say, but he didn't know if he should say it or not. "Uncle Lu, you are the captain of my father's bodyguards. We are as close as a family. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't hold back." Qin Hao saw through his thoughts. Lu Yu raised his head and was slightly shocked. He gritted his teeth and said, "Young master, don't you think that the deaths of master and madam are strange?" As the leader of the Qin family's guards, Lu Yu was originally a body tempering stage 9 cultivator. 2 years ago, He accompanied Qin Hao's father on a trip and was ambushed. He was severely injured and his meridians were crippled, resulting in his current situation. What did you find? Qin Hao asked with a sullen face. The events of that year had already been covered in dust, and Lu Yu was the only one who returned alive. That night was very scary. Lu Yu's face turned pale at the mention of the past. At that time, they were going to Heaven's Wall City. Due to the long journey, they rested in the forest. Suddenly, a group of assassins in black broke into the campsite and killed everyone in sight without saying a word. My 11 brothers were all killed in the battle. Madam took a hit for master, Lu Yu said as tears streamed down his face. The Qin family also had an elite force that was no weaker than the Zhuang family's demon team. They were called the Silver Armored Cavalry. Lu Yu was the captain of the Silver Armored Cavalry. The target of the assassins was clear. They wanted to kill Qin Hao's father. Qin Hao's father was an elite in the gathering element state. Therefore, he was surrounded by the most people. He knew that he couldn't escape, so he risked his life to open a path for Lu Yu to escape. Lu Yu still remembered his master's instructions: go back. Protect Hao. Don't take revenge. Live well. Creak. Lu Yu clenched his fists because of the pain. Even though those bastards covered their faces, I could feel that they were the Zhuang family's demon team. Lu Yu wasn't lying. He saw clearly that the assassins used a saber. The saber was the standard weapon of the demon team. However, when he went back to get reinforcements, he found that the enemy had already cleaned up the traces of the battle. Not even a saber was left behind, let alone the assassins' bodies. Lu Yu had no evidence. His words were meaningless. Grandpa Qin wouldn't fall out with the Zhuang family just because of his words. That would only ruin the entire Qin family. Moreover, Qin Hao's father had said clearly, don't take revenge. Live well. He didn't want anything to happen to Qin Hao again. You don't have to say any more. I hope that Uncle Lu won't tell anyone about this, Qin Hao said coldly. Young master. Lu Yu had hoped that after Qin Hao knew the truth, he would report it to Grandpa Qin and avenge his father. He didn't expect Qin Hao to be so cowardly. Lu Yu was about to say something when he noticed that Qin Hao was emitting a thick aura of death. That's right, it was the aura of death. It seemed to come from the underworld. He understood that his young master wasn't afraid. He was about to make a move. You can all leave. You don't have to worry about the hunt. As for the Zhuang family, I'll make sure they disappear from this world. Qin Hao walked out of the hall with a dark expression. Young master has really changed. Looking at Qin Hao's back, Mother Blessing sighed. Brother Qin Hao. Xiaohan pursed her lips. Worry was written all over her face. Not only did Qin Hao have to work for her, but he also had to bear the burden of a blood feud. At this moment, Xiaohan felt an inexplicable pain in her heart. Qin Hao used to be a carefree young master. Now, he had to bear everything. I want to cultivate. I want to become stronger. I want to help brother Qin Hao. Xiaohan secretly made up her mind. No matter what, she couldn't be a burden to Qin Hao anymore. Bang! Qin Hao slammed the door shut. His eyes were bloodshot, and his gaze was extremely terrifying. At this moment, the entire Akita town was unusually quiet. It was as if all the little creatures were afraid. They were afraid of the thunderous fury of an emperor. Zhuang Heba, the Zhuang family. Qin Hao silently recited the name of his enemy. You want to marry Xiaohan? Don't even think about it. Not only will I not be able to marry Xiaohan, but I'll also ruin your reputation and disdain you. At first, Qin Hao was puzzled. With the power of the Qin family in Akita town, who would dare to lay a hand on his parents? He didn't expect it to be the Zhuang family. No wonder the Silver Armored Cavalry was annihilated. No wonder his father died so tragically even though he was in the gathering Yuan state. That night, the old man of the Zhuang family must have taken action personally. Otherwise, who could hurt his father? He must have been killed by the old man of the Zhuang family. Qin Hao was Denda reborn, but his body belonged to his parent. If he couldn't avenge his family, how could he be an emperor? How could he have the face to occupy someone else's body? If I don't destroy the Zhuang family, I swear I'm not human. Qin Hao turned around and stabbed out with his finger. His entire finger sank into the door behind him. Although blood flowed along the crack in the door, Qin Hao didn't show any pain on his face. On the contrary, there was a thick smile on his face. Chapter 7. The first trash of the Qin residence. Back mountain of the Qin residence. A young man stood in the middle of the mountain. In front of him was a huge rock that was as tall as a man. The young man was elegant, emitting a scholarly aura. He slowly raised his hand, his body gradually tensed up, and gathered all his strength at his fingertip. Suddenly, the young man's eyes flashed, and he poked at the huge rock with his finger. His movements were quick, and his scholarly aura was completely gone. His finger poked into the rock, and his movements were fierce and ruthless. Gotcha! The moment his finger poked into the rock, a layer of fine spider web spread out from the rock. Qin Hao's lips curled up, and he withdrew his finger. Pung! The huge rock in front of him crumbled, and turned into fragments on the ground. After 5 days of hard work, the results are not bad. Qin Yu nodded with satisfaction, and the smile on his face gradually deepened. This finger was very powerful, comparable to a second-layer body-tempering stage mystic technique. Qin Hao was currently only at the first layer of body-tempering stage, like the bone-splitting dragon hand. That defeated Song Zhong, the golden finger, was also a set of high heaven-grade elemental skills. In the body-tempering stage, one could rely on the strength of the body to break gold and stone. In the late stage of the elemental gathering stage, once the body produced elemental energy, it could be released through the fingers to kill the enemy from a distance. The difference was that the bone-splitting dragon hand was more of a defensive skill, and its advantage was in borrowing force to attack. On the other hand, the golden finger was a set of elemental skills with great offensive power. 5 days ago, Qin Hao and Zhuang Ji set a 1-month agreement, and learned the truth of his parents' tragic death. He immediately made a list, and asked Mother Blessing to sell all the valuables to buy medicinal ingredient. Regardless of whether it was hunting or revenge, without great power, everything was just empty talk. Qin Hao had to do his best to increase his power. He bought a total of 6 medicinal ingredients, all of which were the most common and the cheapest in the market. Then, he soaked them in the best ratio in a large pot, and asked Mother Blessing to boil them day and night. He wanted to boil them into a type of medicine, the Luoyang liquid. The Luoyang liquid was a miniature body-strengthening medicine invented by Qin Hao in his previous life, before he became famous. Its advantage was that it was cheap and its effects were strong. With Qin Hao's current realm, he was still unable to refine pills. If he wanted to concoct pills, he had to be at least in the late stage of the gathering Yuan realm. He had to be able to produce Yuan Qi in his body and condense Yuan Qi into Yuan fire. Currently, he could only concoct potions. I've already achieved lesser mastery of the golden finger technique. As long as I drink the 6 fine liquid, I'll be able to break through to body-tempering realm stage 3. By then, I'll be able to fight against Zhuang Heba. Qin Hao nodded his head. With his high-grade heaven-grade golden finger, if he couldn't defeat a body-tempering stage 5 Zhuang Ji when he was only at the body-tempering stage 3, then he would have wasted his life as an alchemy emperor. Brother Qin Hao. At this moment, a call interrupted his thoughts. Qin Hao smiled, knowing that Xiao Han had come. He turned around and said, "What's wrong? Are you here to check on my cultivation results?" Xiao Han pouted. Just as he was about to speak, his body suddenly trembled as he discovered the gravel under Qin Hao's feet. She immediately looked around, and after a glance, she was shocked. All the rocks around Qin Hao were riddled with holes like a sieve. Judging from the marks, they were made by fingers, and there were also countless bloodstains on the rock. Your hand. Xiao Han hurried to Qin Hao and grabbed his hand. There was a thick layer of calluses on his index finger. She choked and sparkling tears rolled down her cheeks. Why are you crying? Your face won't look good if you cry. Qin Hao smiled and used his calloused finger to scratch Xiao Han's nose. Woo woo. Brother Qin Hao. Xiao Han could not help but throw herself into Qin Yu's arms. How painful would it be to use one's fingers to break a rock? The fingers were connected to the heart, and the rock was incomparably hard. It was not something that people could endure. She knew that everything Qin Hao did was for her. Does it hurt? Xiao Han raised her teary face. For you, it doesn't hurt, Qin Yu said gently. Hearing these words, Xiao Han's tears gushed out again. Don't cry, girl. Let's go home. I'll show you something good. Qin Hao took Xiao Han's hand and prepared to go home to show her the results of the Luoyang liquid. The Luoyang liquid had been boiled by Mother Fu for no less than 5 days and 5 nights. The filthy energy had been completely evaporated, leaving only its essence. The amount of medicinal materials he bought was so large that Qin Hao simply could not use them all. He wanted to take Xiao Han to practice with him. Xiao Han was adopted by her parents and had always been bullied in the Qin mansion. When her parents were still alive, nobody dared to be presumptuous. But in the past 2 years, Xiao Han had suffered a lot in the Qin family because of Qin Hao. The Qin family was very strict with Xiao Han. They did not teach her any techniques because they would not waste their pills on an outsider. Now Qin Hao had been reborn. As the former Dendi, what kind of pills could he not concoct? He decided that when his cultivation level increased in the future, he would give Xiao Han pills as food and raise this girl like a princess. Because Xiao Han exchanged her body for the pills, Qin Hao's holy sense was preserved when he was reborn. He would remember this favor for the rest of his life. The two of them returned to the Qin mansion from the back door and went all the way to the east courtyard. Before they could enter the gate, they were bumped into by Qin Dapeng, who came out from inside. Hey, I've been looking for you for several days. Come with me to see Grandpa. Qin Dapeng reached out his hand to pull Qin Hao's collar. Qin Hao held Xiao Han's waist and slightly moved his feet. Qin Dapeng's hand missed. Like Zhuang Heba, he brushed past Qin Hao's body and almost fell to the ground. You! Qin Dapeng was a little surprised. It had only been a few days, but Qin Hao already had the ability to dodge. Since we're from the same clan, I'm warning you. Watch your hands. If you don't blame me for being impolite. Qin Hao's face darkened. You're still impolite to me? It took you 16 years to reach the first layer of body tempering realm. That was after you sold a wild girl and licked Zhuang Heba's feet. So what if you're in the first layer of body tempering realm now? You'll never be able to get rid of the title of the number 1 trash in the Qin mansion. Qin Dapeng snorted. He was in the 3rd layer of body tempering realm, so he was not afraid of Qin Hao. Qin Hao's achievements today were all because he ate Zhuang Heba's heart protection pill. Relying on a woman to climb up, he did not know how to embarrass himself. What nonsense are you talking about? Xiao Han said angrily. Qin Hao's cultivation was painstakingly cultivated. How could he be insulted by Qin Dapeng? Who do you think you are? Our Qin family is speaking. What right does a bastard have to interrupt? Qin Dapeng glared, looking down on Xiao Han. Pa! Qin Hao raised his hand and slapped Qin Dapeng's face. Not only are your hands cheap, your mouth is also so smelly. Qin Hao. You! Qin Dapeng roared. His face was burning with pain. The red palm print on his face was exceptionally eye-catching. Disgrace. It was simply a great humiliation, being slapped in the face by a trash. He felt as if there was a pile of feces on his face. Qin Hao's feces. At this moment, he finally understood how angry Song Zhong was when he was slapped. Unfortunately, he was not Song Zhong. No matter how much he hated him, he could not do anything, because the old man was waiting for him to bring Qin Hao over. You really have guts. I'll remember this. Humph. Qin Dapeng gritted his teeth in anger. He turned around and walked towards the ancestral hall. Qin Hao Gij. Xiao Han pulled on Qin Hao's sleeve. She was very worried. At the same time, she was extremely touched. Qin Hao slapped Qin Dapeng because of her. Be good, wait for me at home. Qin Hao smiled and pinched Xiao Han's face. He strode behind Qin Dapeng. Qin Mansion's #1 trash? Interesting. Chapter 8. One finger startles the heavens. Needless to say, it must be for the hunt. In the past few days, someone had leaked the news that Qin Hao was going to represent the Qin family in the hunt. This news had spread like wildfire in the Qin mansion, and even in the town. Qin Hao was only at the first layer of body tempering stage, and wanting to go hunting was simply overestimating himself. They arrived at the ancestral hall. It was packed with people. The Qin family's patriarch, Qin Shilong, sat at the top, and below him stood Qin Hao's uncles. A middle-aged man greeted him with surprise. Fourth uncle. Qin Hao was also excited, and his body uncontrollably knelt down. Hao greets fourth uncle. This was an instinctive reaction, because the person in front of him was the only person in the entire Qin mansion who did not dislike Qin Hao. Qin Laosi treated Qin Hao like his own son. However, he was too busy and had been away for months. When he came back, he heard that Qin Hao had accidentally eaten poisonous grass, and was even threatened by Song Zhong. Qin Laosi was furious, and if not for the patriarch stopping him, he would have killed his way to the Zhuang family. Get up, quickly get up. It's good that you're fine, it's good that you're fine. Qin Laosi helped Qin Hao up, and used his eyes to signal him to quickly bow to Qin Shilong. Qin Hao's eyes were a little wet, and he only had eyes for this kind fourth uncle. However, he did not have a good impression of Qin Shilong. When he had accidentally eaten poisonous grass, the entire Qin mansion had turned a blind eye to it. Qin Hao did not believe that the people here did not know. But what about these clan relatives? They stood by the side and watched as Qin Hao died. In the end, Xiao Han had no choice but to sell himself to the Zhuang family in exchange for a life-saving heart protection pill. Qin Hao remembered all of this in his heart. Greetings to grandfather. Qin Hao expressionlessly bowed to Qin Shilong. He did not kneel and only bowed slightly. The people in the hall sneered. Qin Hao knelt before Qin Laosi, but he didn't kneel before the old ancestor. He was clearly looking down on the old ancestor. Hao has just recovered from a serious illness and his body is weak. Father, please don't blame him. Qin Laosi quickly spoke up for Qin Hao. It doesn't matter, Qin Shilong said faintly. It was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. Dapeng, what happened to your face? At this moment, a fat middle-aged man in luxurious clothes anxiously pulled Qin Dapeng back. He was Qin Dapeng's father, Qin Yuhai. Wasn't it because I accidentally fell down? Qin Dapeng looked aggrieved. He originally wanted to say that he was bitten by a bastard, but when he saw Qin Laosi beside Qin Hao, he quickly changed his words. This fourth uncle was very capable, and his skills were even above his father's. How could you be so careless? Qin Yuhai caressed Qin Dapeng's face with heartache. He stole a glance at Qin Hao, and a trace of viciousness flashed through his eyes. As an old ghost, how could he not see through the clues? Recently I have been in seclusion. Your uncles have been busy with family matters and neglected you. How Song Zhong's matter, it's all in the past. I'm fine now. Qin Hao interrupted Qin Shilong. His face was very calm, as if that matter was not worth mentioning. However, he sneered in his heart. Neglected me? I'm afraid everyone can't wait for me to die. Qin Hao could not cultivate and had always been regarded as a burden by the Qin family. His life was a waste of air. To the Qin family, his life was not important at all. Qin Shilong's eyes flickered. Since Qin Hao did not want to pursue this matter, it was even better. He continued, now that your fourth uncle is back, the Zhuang family will definitely not dare to touch you again. However, the aristocratic hunt. I must go hunting. When it came to hunting, Qin Hao did not back down. This was related to Xiao Han's lifelong happiness, so it was impossible for him to back down. Someone like you wants to go hunting? Why don't you take a piss and look at your own face? Qin Dapeng curled his lips. Qin Hao was simply overestimating himself. I only broke through to the first layer of body tempering after eating the Zhuang family's heart protection pill. What a waste! If my son had eaten it, he would definitely have broken through to the third layer of body tempering. Licking his face and sucking up to outsiders, disgracing the Qin family. Everyone in the hall started to talk at once, their words full of sarcasm towards Qin Hao. At the same time, there was also a trace of jealousy. Shut up, all of you! Qin Shilong slammed his palm on the armchair in anger. His anger caused a layer of green light to appear on his body. This was the aura of a late elemental gathering stage expert. He looked gravely at Qin Hao. His stern eyes seemed to be warning him. You really want to go? I want to go. Qin Yu replied, not only that, but I also want to take first place for the clan. Ha ha ha. Qin Yu Hai held his stomach and laughed so hard that his muscles were about to cramp. Did he hear wrong? Qin Hao wanted to take first place? This is the funniest joke I've ever heard. Taking first place in the hunting competition, I don't even dare to think about it, but he actually dares to do it. Grandfather, quickly let Qin Hao go. He now thinks he's invincible. Qin Dapeng laughed so hard that spittle came out of his mouth. Qin Hao took 16 years to break through to the first layer of body tempering, so his confidence was almost skyrocketing. It's normal that you don't dare, because you don't have the guts. Qin Yu coldly glanced at Qin Dapeng. What did you say? Qin Dapeng stopped laughing and clenched his fist. Not only was he slapped by Qin Hao, but now he was humiliated in front of so many uncles. If Qin Dapeng did not do something now, he would definitely be ridiculed and his father would be disgraced. I said you're the number one trash in the Qin clan. Qin Hao's eyes were as sharp as a sword, without the slightest bit of fear. Don't think you're amazing just because you broke through to the first layer of body tempering. You want to go hunting? Do you dare to take a punch from me? Qin Dapeng's anger had reached its limit. So what if I take 10 punches from you? What if I cripple you? The corners of Qin Hao's mouth rose, his face filled with disdain. Damn it, you're too arrogant. Qin Dapeng was so angry that he jumped up and down on the ground, ready to attack Qin Hao. Dapeng, don't be angry, fists and feet have no eyes. The Qin family's fourth brother saw this and immediately stepped forward to block him. Fourth brother, don't worry, my son knows when to stop. He won't kill Qin Hao. Qin Yuhai stepped forward and blocked Qin Laoxi's path. Qin Dapeng clenched his fists and raised his head, saying, Grandfather, you saw it, right? Qin Hao's arrogance knows no bounds. He doesn't put you in his eyes at all. I want to let him know what he's made of. Qin Shilong narrowed his eyes, his pupils shrinking to the size of a needle, and said in a deep voice, it's not too late to regret. Go back to the east courtyard, and don't mention the hunt again. He could tell that Qin Hao wouldn't back down, so he wanted to use Qin Dapeng to scare Qin Hao away. I have to go hunt, so bring it on. Qin Hao stood firmly in place. Shameless boasting. Greedy wolf fist. Qin Dapeng rushed forward with a punch. Greedy wolf fist was a mid-grade, yellow-grade origin skill of the Qin family. When used, one's figure was extremely fast, like a vicious wolf hunting for its prey. It was incomparably ruthless and aimed to crush the enemy's throat in one move. Qin Laoxi's expression changed drastically. This was clearly an attempt to kill Qin Hao. However, he was blocked by Qin Yuhai and couldn't help in time. Seeing that his opponent was about to use a killing move, Qin Hao didn't panic. Just as Qin Dapeng was about to reach him, he moved. Qin Hao tilted his neck slightly, just enough to avoid Qin Dapeng's fist. His fist was only an inch away from his Adam's apple, not too much, not too little. Qin Hao had grasped this opportunity perfectly. Then, taking advantage of the fact that Qin Dapeng's fist had already dissipated and he was powerless to continue, he condensed a finger and stabbed it in between Qin Dapeng's fingers. Crack! The sound of bones shattering could be heard. Qin Hao's finger had broken 3 of Qin Dapeng's finger bones and directly stabbed his wrist. If he hadn't held back, he would have shattered Qin Dapeng's entire arm. Even so, that arm was crippled. Ah! My arm, my arm! Qin Dapeng fell to the ground, screaming in pain. Boom! This time, it was like a thunderclap, and everyone's eyeballs almost fell to the ground. Qin Dapeng was in the 3rd stage of body tempering, and he was using his family's mid-grade, yellow-grade origin skill. In the end. Chapter 9. Dare to Gamble? Qin Shilong was shocked. As an expert in the gathering yuan tier, he was experienced and shrewd. Qin Hao's finger was very powerful. It was at least a dark-level yuan skill and had been trained hard. But what was frightening was not the finger technique, but the person. Just now, Qin Hao's expression did not change. He was extremely calm and had calculated everything. Taking advantage of Qin Dapeng's exhausted strength, he stabbed into the gap between Qin Dapeng's fingers and increased the damage to the maximum. Qin Hao's control was so exquisite that he faintly had the demeanor of a master. "My son!" An earth-shattering cry broke out. Qin Yuhai simply couldn't believe that his son would be knocked to the ground by the legendary trash. He flew into a rage and said, "Qin Hao's heart is vicious. He doesn't care about the feelings of the same clan. He clearly wants to kill Dapeng. Father, quickly kill Qin Hao and avenge Peng." Qin Yuhai, the villain, complained first. He struggled to push Qin Laoxi away, bent his knees, and knelt down in front of Qin Shilong. Qin Shilong's eyes twitched. They were both his grandchildren. Even if Qin Hao didn't please him, he wouldn't kill him. However, even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs, so how could it be casually executed? At this moment, resentment gathered between his eyebrows. He had hoped that Qin Dapeng would scare Qin Hao. But now, he was knocked to the ground by Qin Hao. He had eaten so many years of rice in vain. "Grandfather, quickly look at my hand. It's deformed. Hurry and help your grandson." Qin Dapeng was in so much pain that his whole body trembled. He raised his hand in front of everyone. His broken fingers were twisted together like a chicken's claw. Even he was scared when he saw it. Qin Hao is heartless. He killed his own clan and is extremely vicious. "Father, do you still want to forgive him?" Qin Yuhai said with tears in his eyes. "Shut up!" Qin Shilong shouted and sighed. "Hao has already shown mercy. Dapeng is too weak." "What? He's already shown mercy?" Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at each other. How could he be merciful after injuring someone to this extent? If he wasn't merciful at all, how savage would he be? A hint of surprise flashed through Qin Hao's eyes. Qin Shilong was indeed a martial artist of element gathering tier. He had actually seen through Qin Hao holding back. "Impossible, I don't believe it." Qin Dapeng's face was full of panic, even forgetting the pain. In the past, Qin Hao would pant after taking 2 steps like a piece of trash. Qin Dapeng didn't want to live anymore after being defeated by him. However, Qin Hao still hadn't used his full strength. Dapeng's skills are not good enough, so he can't blame others. "Second brother, quickly take him to get his hands treated." Qin Lao Si coldly said. He was really worried to death. Who would have thought that Qin Dapeng wouldn't even be able to block one of Hao Er's fingers? Hao Er was truly worthy of being Big Brother's son. It's not that my son's skills aren't good enough, but everyone clearly saw that Qin Hao used a dark-level origin skill. How could he not win when it's a dark-level origin skill? Qin Yuhai refused to leave, even ignoring his son's injuries. Our Qin family only has one dark-level origin skill, but that's not a finger technique, it's minute collapsing fist. The Zhuang clan has a dark-level finger technique called heart-piercing finger. This traitor colluded with outsiders to harm our Qin family. Father, the evidence is conclusive, hurry up and execute this traitor. A tall and thin middle-aged man added fuel to the fire. He was Qin Lao San, who was in cahoots with Qin Yuhai. Qin Hao sold Shao Han to curry favor with Zhuang Heba. Not only did he obtain the heart protection pill, but he also learned the Zhuang clan's martial arts. Grandfather, Qin Hao is a traitor. Qin Dapeng felt very sullen. Qin Hao relied on the pills and martial arts given by Zhuang Heba to become so powerful. How do you explain this? Qin Shilong's face was tense. He did not want to punish Qin Hao because he was merciful. If he really learned the Zhuang clan's origin skill, it would be considered a traitor. Explain? Why should I explain? Qin Hao sneered. How dare you, impudent! Both of you shut up! Qin Hao interrupted Qin Yuhai and Qin Lao San. He looked at Qin Shilong and said, So what if the finger technique is from the Zhuang clan? So what if it isn't? There are countless experts on the continent, and the Qin family isn't the only one who knows the minute collapsing fist, right? Don't tell me that the Qin family's minute collapsing fist was also stolen from outsiders? You rude! Qin Yuhai shouted. Qin Hao ignored him and continued, Origin skills are meant for elementalists to learn. Some people are short-sighted and restricted by the form. As long as they can become stronger, they don't care who they learn from. Qin Hao's flowery words are delusional. He wants to escape the crime of betraying the clan. Father, you can't be deceived by him. Qin Hao shamelessly refused to let Qin Hao off. Betraying the clan? Are you deaf or something? I said it very clearly just now. Participating in the hunt is to get first place for the clan. Your son has no guts, yet you won't let others go. You want to get first place just because you said so? Who are you? All of you, shut up! Qin Shilong shouted. His shout was like a clap of thunder. His voice was mixed with vigorous origin qi, causing everyone's ears to ring and eyes to become dizzy. The incessant quarreling in the hall gave him a headache. Just now, Qin Hao's move did have some traces of the heart-piercing finger. Logically speaking, he should be severely punished or even chased out of the Qin residence. However, after listening to his explanation, Qin Shilong's eyes lit up. That's right, cultivation techniques were meant for people to learn. As long as they could become stronger, it didn't matter who they learned it from. When Qin Shilong was young, he had longed for the Zhuang clan's heart-piercing finger for a long time. Now that Qin Hao learned it, Qin Shilong's wish was fulfilled. Hao I really underestimated you in the past. Fine, you can go to the hunt. However, during this period of time, you must seize the opportunity to improve your strength. Qin Shilong said. Father, you. Qin Yuhai never expected that not only would Qin Shilong not punish Qin Yu, but he would also let him participate in the hunt. Hao will take his leave. Qin Hao said indifferently and turned to leave. Stop. Qin Yuhai saw that he couldn't stop Qin Hao from going to the hunt, so he blocked the door and refused to let him leave. You keep saying that you want to get first place. Who knows if you collude with Zhuang Heba? What if you lose? Second uncle, do you dare to make a bet with me? Qin Hao said with a smile. What kind of bet? Qin Yuhai asked. If I lose, I'll move out of the east courtyard and give it to you. Good. Qin Yuhai was overjoyed. Qin Hao boasted shamelessly. He was delusional to think that he could defeat Zhuang Heba at body tempering stage 1. The East Courtyard. That was where the Qin family's patriarch lived. Father, did you hear that? If Qin Hao loses, he'll give me the East Courtyard. Peng Er's injuries are serious. I'll bring him down to treat his injuries. Qin Yuhai pulled Qin Dapeng away. At the same time, a sinister smile flashed across their faces. Wait. Qin Hao raised his arm and blocked Qin Yuhai's path. What if I win? Win? You think you can defeat Zhuang Heba? Go eat shit. Qin Dapeng was furious when he saw Qin Hao. He seemed to have forgotten that he was knocked to the ground by Qin Hao's finger. If you win, I'll give you the West Courtyard's medicine store. Qin Yuhai gritted his teeth. Don't make it sound so nice. The medicine store originally belonged to my father. You're just returning it. Qin Hao said coldly. Just wait and see. Qin Yuhai swept his sleeve and pulled Qin Dapeng out. Outside the hall, Father, look at my hands. They've turned into chicken feet. You can't let Qin Hao go. Qin Dapeng cried as he walked. His hands were trembling nonstop. His hands were really crippled. It's worth it if you can exchange your hands for the East Courtyard. At the end of the day, you're still useless. If you were half as capable as your brother, Qin Hao would be the one who turned into chicken feet today. Qin Yuhai said resentfully. Big brother is so powerful. How can I compare to him? Qin Dapeng revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. It was because his brother was so powerful that Qin Dapeng couldn't catch up to him even if he rode 10 donkeys. That was why he was lazy and didn't practice martial arts properly. When will Big Brother come back? I'll definitely break Qin Hao's hands. No. I'll also break one of Qin Hao's legs. Qin Dapeng said viciously. Chapter 10. Amazing Mother Fu. Inside the hall. You have the ability and courage to bet with your second uncle. You're bound to lose. Qin Laosan pointed at Qin Hao's nose, waved his sleeves and stepped out of the room. Qin Hao was too lazy to respond to Qin Laosan. He had seen too many opportunists like him in his previous life. Later on, he would cry. He bowed and said, Time is of the essence. I have to go back and prepare for the hunt. Go. Do your best. It doesn't matter if you don't get first place. Qin Shilong waved his hand and let Qin Hao leave. In the past years, the Qin family had always been last place. Even though Qin Hao had shown an extraordinary side, Qin Shilong was still not optimistic about him. You must be tired. Take care of yourself. I'll take my leave. Qin Laosan watched Qin Hao leave and chased after him. After leaving, he grabbed Qin Hao's arm and shook his head. Hao, you're too reckless. Fourth uncle? Qin Hao was startled, but then he smiled innocently. In the entire Qin mansion, other than Xiaohan, there was no one he cared about more than his fourth uncle. Hao, while I was away you must have suffered a lot. But for the hunt, Zhuang Heba's strength is not bad. The Zhou family's boy is also very ruthless. Take this. Qin Laosan took out 2 jade bottles and put them in Qin Hao's hands. Elemental augmenting pill? Qin Hao was slightly surprised. He recognized it at a glance. To him, the elemental augmenting pill was not a good thing. But in this remote town, the elemental augmenting pill was definitely a precious treasure. Its medicinal effect was very strong and could help a Yuan cultivator break through to the next level. The elemental augmenting pill in his fourth uncle's hand must have cost a lot to obtain. Qin Hao shook his head and pushed the elemental augmenting pill back. Brother Yu is like me. His body is weak and he can't practice martial arts. You should give him the elemental augmenting pill. His fourth uncle had a child called Qin Yu. Like Qin Hao, he could not practice martial arts. The difference is that Qin Yu was born with a disease. His condition is far worse than Qin Hao's. The reason why Qin Yu was able to live until now was completely because his fourth uncle had traveled extensively to collect medicinal pills to treat his illness. What nonsense are you spouting? I told you to take it, so take it. Qin Laosi stuffed the essence-augmenting pill into Qin Hao's arms, not allowing the other party to refuse. This. Thank you, fourth uncle. A warm feeling flowed through Qin Hao's chest. It wasn't that there wasn't anyone in the huge Qin residence who didn't care about him. It's just that, brother you don't have to worry about Xiao Yu's matter. There's still half a month before the hunt. You have to make the best use of your time to increase your strength. Qin Laosi warned, then frowned. Why did you want to kill Song Zhong? What happened while I was away? What else could it be? Qin Hao shook his head with a wry smile and told him what had happened. Eating the poisonous grass by mistake, the Qin mansion did nothing to save him. Xiao Han exchanged his body for the medicine, and Song Zhong came to snatch him away. In the end, he was killed by Qin Hao. Bastard! Qin Laosi flew into a rage, seeing through the strangeness of the matter. Qin Hao couldn't have been poisoned. The food in the Qin residence was exactly the same. Why was it that the others weren't poisoned, but Qin Hao was poisoned? Someone must have done something in secret. Big brother and sister-in-law only have you as their only child. You are the same as you were, unable to cultivate since childhood. Even so, they still didn't let you go. Qin Laosi clenched his teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. He didn't need to guess to know who did it. It was definitely related to Qin Depeng. The Qin residence's rules were strict, forbidding the disciples from killing each other. Qin Depeng could only use underhanded method. As long as Qin Hao was poisoned to death, the East Courtyard would have no master. Qin Yu Hai and Qin Depeng would be able to find an opportunity to move in and become the patriarch, taking charge of the Qin family. Fourth uncle, it's fine as long as you understand. There's no need to say it out loud. I believe that those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. It's not that they won't get their revenge, it's just that it's not time yet. From the moment Qin Hao was reborn, he saw through this conspiracy. When Song Zhong was snatching people, Qin Depeng was present, his face full of schadenfreude. Furthermore, the Qin residence's gate was guarded by guards. If it wasn't for someone deliberately letting Song Zhong in, he wouldn't have been able to break into the East Courtyard. All of this was done by Qin Depeng. However, Qin Depeng didn't expect that Zhuang Jiba would take out an expensive heart protection pill for Xiao Han. Thus, he was extremely jealous in his heart. I understand. Qin Laosi nodded, changing the topic. One cannot always give in. Back then, it was because Big Brother was too tolerant of them that you were bullied today. Don't cross my bottom line. Otherwise, even if it means killing each other, I won't let Qin Yu Hai have an easy time. His son's situation was similar to Qin Hao's. This made him feel pity for Qin Hao. Especially after Qin Hao's parents died, Qin Laosi took care of Qin Hao in every possible way. Fourth uncle, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Oh, little brother Yu is still waiting for you at home. Qin Hao reminded him with a smile. Qin Laosi patted Qin Hao's shoulder and strode back to his residence. This was all he could do. The rest would have to depend on Qin Hao's own efforts. Looking at his fourth uncle's back, Qin Hao felt a little strange. According to his previous judgment, his fourth uncle would not return so quickly. Could it be that he provoked someone outside? Qin Hao faintly felt that his fourth uncle was hiding something. However, speaking of Qin Yu, Qin Hao knew what illness he had. No, it was not an illness at all. It was poison. It was a very subtle poison that ordinary people would not be able to detect. However, this poison could not fool Denda's eyes. East Courtyard. Qin Hao strode towards the kitchen. Mother Fu was boiling luoyang liquid in the kitchen. He was thinking that after finishing the hunting, he would definitely help his fourth uncle get rid of the poison in Qin Yu's body. In addition, He had to always be on guard against Qin Yuhai and his son's revenge. When Qin Dapeng was defeated by Qin Hao, he seemed to be very scared, but there was a trace of malice hidden in his eyes. Qin Yuhai and his son's evil intentions had not changed. They wanted to take over the east courtyard, but they could forget about it. Not only would they not be able to enter the east courtyard, but they would also lose the medicine shop. Speaking of the medicine shop, it was built by his father with his blood and sweat. It originally belonged to the east courtyard. After his parents died, Qin Yuhai found all kinds of excuses to make his grandfather take back the medicine shop and transfer it to the west courtyard. Arriving at the kitchen, Qin Hao had not even stepped into the door when an intoxicating medicinal aroma greeted him, which made him feel refreshed. Qin Hao secretly smiled. Judging from the medicinal aroma, the efficacy of the Luoyang liquid would definitely not disappoint him. As soon as Qin Hao stepped into the kitchen, he was startled. There was a pot of decoction in the room, and an old woman was squatting beside it, fanning wildly with a fan. The old woman's face was dark, like a coal worker who had drilled out of a mine. This. Qin Hao looked at the African in front of him. Was this still the smiling Mother Blessing? Young master, you're finally here. Hurry up. This Yao Lao slave has been cooking for 5 days and 5 nights. If it continues, it will be dry. Seeing Qin Hao return, Mother Blessing's face was full of joy. At that time, Qin Hao had soaked 6 kinds of medicinal herbs in the best proportion in a big pot. After 5 days, Mother Blessing had reduced it to a small pot. But Qin Hao was not concerned about this at the moment, but the person in front of him. Mother Blessing was not only as dark as a miner, but also 3 times thinner. In the past, Mother Blessing had a bucket-like waist, but now she was almost a skeleton. In an instant, Qin Hao's heart was deeply moved. Young master, what's wrong? Oh, I'm fine, although I haven't rested for 5 days and 5 nights, and only closed my eyes once. But young master, I want to thank you for your great kindness. Mother Blessing said and actually knelt down in front of Qin Hao. Old woman, please get up. You're so tired that you don't look like a human being. Qin Hao really can't afford it. Qin Hao quickly helped Mother Blessing up. Young master, you don't know. Since I started cooking the medicine, I've been smelling the fragrance of the medicine every day. My 40 years of headaches are gone, and my waist is no longer sore. Although I'm thin, I'm full of energy and full of strength. After Mother Blessing finished speaking, she punched the lid of the pot next to her, and the lid made of light aluminum was dented. Hiss! Qin Hao took a breath of cold air. The power of Mother Blessing's punch was not too strong, and it could be done by a man in his prime. The point was that she was more than 60 years old, and she was still an ordinary person who had never cultivated. Chapter 11. Little sister is growing up. According to young master's instructions, I was going to boil it for 12 hours and then take a nap. But the more I boiled it, the more energetic I became. I didn't feel sleepy at all after smelling the medicine. Young master's medicine is very magical. Mother Fu explained excitedly. Qin Hao frowned as his gaze fell on the other party. Mother Fu was thin, but she was full of energy. Under her dark skin, her vitality was much better than people of the same age. She must have absorbed the essence of the medicine to repair her aging meridians and make her body more energetic. He didn't expect that the Luoyang liquid could also transform the body of a weak person. Why didn't he find it in his previous life? Qin Hao shook his head. When he created the Luoyang liquid in his previous life, his strength had already begun to take shape. It was reasonable that it didn't work. He nodded and said, "It's all thanks to you that this medicine can be successfully made." No. Mother Fu was flattered and quickly gave the medicine to Qin Hao. Young master, I can feel that its power is absolutely amazing. I was afraid that you would blame me for boiling a big pot until only a small pot is left. This medicine needs to be heated for 5 days to reach high grade. You must be tired. Go and have a rest. Qin Hao nodded and was about to leave with the medicine pot. Young master, wait a minute. Mother Fu hurriedly stopped him. What's wrong? Qin Hao turned around and asked. That, if you want to make medicine again, can you let me do it first? Mother Fu looked very nervous. She was afraid that someone would steal her business. Ha ha ha, of course I can. I don't feel at ease if I let someone else do it. Qin Yu was amused. It turned out that Mother Fu was addicted to boiling medicine. Thank you, young master. Thank you. Mother Fu was so moved that she wanted to cry. Young master was really a good boy. He was handsome and had a good temper. Any girl who could marry him must have burned 8 generations of incense. Mother Fu must work hard to boil medicine for young master. East Courtyard, Xiao Han's residence. Xiao Han, look what I brought for you. Qin Hao came hurriedly. He was very happy. Xiao Han's door was closed. He knocked the door open with a bang. Bang, he kicked the door shut. There were too many people around, so he couldn't let outsiders know about the Luoyang liquid. The moment he stepped in, an ear-piercing scream reverberated in the air. The voice was incomparably sharp. Qin Hao froze on the spot. In the room, a young girl was sitting in a bathtub, completely naked. Her smooth skin was as white as ivory, and her wet long hair hung in front of her chest, just enough to cover her embarrassing parts. Xiao Han was extremely beautiful, and there was spiritual energy flowing between her brows. She had the looks of a pretty girl from a humble family, and at the same time, she had the fresh and refined aura of a graceful young girl. At this moment, she was like a lotus flower that had just emerged from the water, so pure and fresh. Moreover, the girl's figure had already begun to take shape. Qin Hao was dumbfounded. Big brother Qin Hao, why are you here all of a sudden? Can you turn around first and let me put on my clothes? Xiao Han hugged her chest tightly and lowered her head in embarrassment, not daring to look into Qin Hao's eyes. Oh. I'll turn around, turn around. Qin Hao immediately turned around with the jar of medicine. Right now, he was full of vigor and was in the prime of his youth. Fortunately, as a person who had lived 2 lives, his mind was calm and he instantly restrained the impulse of his body. Otherwise, something terrible would really happen. I'm done. You can turn around. Xiao Han pulled a white veil from the side and draped it over her body. Sitting on the edge of the bed, her small hands nervously clenched together, still not daring to raise her head. Qin Hao took a deep breath and told himself to calm down. Turn around, boom. The heat that had just calmed down erupted like a volcano, uncontrollable, and even his breathing became rapid. The white veil Xiao Han draped over her was too thin and couldn't cover her seductive figure. The girl's body was vaguely visible under the white veil, causing one's imagination to run wild and his blood to boil. Qin Hao shook his head fiercely and hurriedly said, Xiao Han, quickly cover yourself with the blanket. I can't take it. In an instant, Xiao Han's face turned as red as a ripe apple, and she hurriedly wrapped the blanket around her body. Phew! Qin Hao heaved a sigh of relief. What a harmful little vixen. Big brother Qin Hao, did you need something from me? Xiao Han obediently sat on the edge of the bed. Her voice was very soft, and she was as obedient as a little girl next door. Yes. Qin Hao nodded and briefly recounted what had happened in the ancestral hall, leaving Xiao Han dumbfounded. What? Qin Dapeng couldn't even withstand a finger from Big Brother Hao? Xiao Han raised her head in shock, instantly forgetting the embarrassing scene just now. Xiao Han was already very surprised that the Qin family's patriarch had agreed to let Qin Hao go hunting. What was even more shocking was that Qin Dapeng, who was in the 3rd stage of body tempering, was so weak that he couldn't even withstand a single blow from Qin Hao. Big brother Qin Hao is only in the 1st stage of body tempering. Heavens, is this real or fake? What? You don't believe me? No. I just think, Don't think, just look at Qin Dapeng's hand and you'll know. How dare he call you a bastard? He deserves to be beaten up by me. Qin Hao held the jar of medicine and spoke eloquently even when he was beating someone up. Defeating Qin Dapeng wasn't strange. Golden Finger was a high-grade heaven-grade origin skill. It wasn't something that a set of yellow-grade goods could withstand. Moreover, Qin Hao wasn't simply in the first stage of body tempering. His strength was much stronger than ordinary people because he cultivated the art of eternal reincarnation. So Big Brother Qin Hao did it for me. Xiao Han's nose twitched, and she held back her tears. Although it was blissful to be pampered, she couldn't distract Qin Hao anymore. At this moment, the desire to become stronger stimulated Xiao Han, and she desperately wanted to cultivate. Only by cultivating could she help Qin Hao. Little girl, guess why I'm here? Qin Hao saw through her thoughts. He picked up the jar of medicine and walked over step by step. His scorching gaze seemed to be able to tear the blanket on Xiao Han's body apart. Xiao Han pursed her lips, and her heart raced. Qin Hao's gaze made it difficult for her to breathe. Could it be that he wants to? I'm going to help you break through your realm and cultivate with you. Qin Hao stretched his head over and said in a serious tone. Phew! Xiao Han heaved a sigh of relief. So Qin Hao wanted to bring her to cultivate. She thought he wanted to what? Bring me to cultivate with you? Xiao Han's voice suddenly rose in pitch. Happiness came too quickly, and she almost threw the blanket on her body to the ground. Qin Hao didn't wait for Xiao Han to come back to her senses. He placed the medicine in her hands and began to rummage through the room. Don't get too excited, come. Help me hold it. He found a bowl and took out a bottle of honey. He poured the Luoyang liquid into the bowl, and the golden liquid covered the bottom of the bowl. It was about the same amount as a bottle of medicine. He opened the jar of honey, dripped 3 drops into the bowl, and held it in front of Xiao Han. Drink it! Xiao Han was greeted by the fragrance of herbs. She didn't hesitate and drank it in one gulp. How do you feel? Qin Hao asked. It tastes a little sweet. Xiao Han lowered her head shyly, and a sweet smile appeared on her face. Qin Hao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm asking you, how do you feel in your body? My body? Xiao Han looked up blankly with a natural dazed expression. Boom! As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Han's soul shook, and her eyes widened. She sensed that something was wrong in her body, and a warm current was spreading rapidly. The warm current spread from her dantian to her entire body, and instantly opened up all her meridians. Chapter 12. Are you done touching me? This, feeling that his body was filled with unprecedented power, Xiao Han seemed to have seen a whole new world in an instant. Don't move. Qin Hao reacted quickly and grabbed her wrist. Then, his hands moved like a shadow and quickly patted various parts of her body. Ankles, calves, knees, zhongfu, shinfeng, shanzhong acupoint. What he used was the golden finger. The power he used was just right. It would not hurt his opponent at all, but it could stimulate the vitality of his acupoint. Xiao Han had successfully broken through and needed to stabilize his realm. Brother Qin Hao, what are you doing? Xiao Han panicked. Qin Hao groped all over her body. Every time he touched her, she felt a numbing sensation. This feeling was wonderful, comfortable, and enjoyable, but she was still a young girl and had never been touched by anyone, but Qin Hao had touched her once. Woo! At this moment, tears fell from the girl's eyes, but she still didn't dare to move. She could only let the delinquent in front of her do whatever he wanted. After a short while, you touched everything. Xiao Han whimpered. Qin Hao blushed and said awkwardly, I'll take that energy and let it flow through your body. You have to remember the path of circulation so that you can control it yourself in the future. Big Brother Qin Hao is helping me? Xiao Han came to a sudden realization. Silly girl, you are now a first-stage body tempering stage Yuan practitioner. Normal people are definitely not your match. Qin Hao shook his head helplessly. Then I'm very powerful now? Taking care of 10 mama foxes is not a problem. Xiao Han was dazed. Didn't they say that cultivation was very difficult? You've only just started. Moreover, strength alone cannot determine victory or defeat. You still need to cultivate a origin skill. Qin Hao instructed seriously. Xiao Han nodded. He knew that primordial skills were cultivation technique. Only by combining one's strength with one's cultivation method would one be able to create a powerful destructive force. Can you remember the position I needed just now? Qin Hao asked. And Xiao Han's face was full of shyness. How could she not remember being touched? In the future, you have to need those spots often. I'll teach you the cultivation method tomorrow. You can practice it now and familiarize yourself with it. After Qin Hao finished speaking, he picked up the medicine pot and walked out. I will do my best. Xiao Han bit her lips silently. Her red cheeks made people want to take a bite out of them. She could finally cultivate. She didn't know what kind of powerful cultivation technique Qin Hao would teach her tomorrow. She was looking forward to it. Outside the room, Qin Hao wiped the blood from his nose. If he stayed any longer, he might not be able to control it. Being in such close contact and groping around the girl's soft body, no matter how strong his self-control was, he still had a reaction. It was time to go back and break through. So young master is here. After stepping out, he was caught red-handed by Lu Yu. Uncle Lu? Qin Hao was also stunned. Lu Yu stared at Qin Hao in a daze. He noticed that Qin Hao's expression was a little abnormal, and there was even blood on his clothes. This was Xiao Han's room. Could it be that they— Oh. I didn't see anything, Lu Yu said in all seriousness. It's not what you think. Qin Hao was speechless. Uncle Lu, are you looking for me for something? Lu Yu nodded. He knew about Qin Hao's experience in the ancestral hall. This matter had been spread by the servants in the residence. Including poking Qin Dapeng with a finger, it caused quite a stir. Although Lu Yu didn't know how Qin Hao did it, after learning about it, he went around looking for Qin Hao, wanting to teach him some shallow martial arts technique. Although Lu Yu's cultivation was crippled, he still had experience. The more the young master's strength increased, the safer he would be when hunting. Uncle Lu, you are too kind. I have my own decisions for the hunt. Your injuries haven't healed yet, so you should focus on recuperating. Qin Hao was very touched. Young master, what are you talking about? This lowly one's life was given to me by old master. Your matters are my matters. As Lu Yu spoke, he rolled up his sleeves and prepared to train Qin Hao. No, Uncle Lu. In fact, Qin Hao pulled Lu Yu aside and told him about the matter of astral travel. What? A peerless expert? Lu Yu's eyes widened. He was shocked by Qin Hao's words. Looking around, he lowered his voice and said, This is young master's secret. You mustn't tell others about it. Since you have such an expert helping you, I won't embarrass myself. Sorrow flashed across Lu Yu's eyes. Initially, he thought that he was quite useful. Training Qin Hao wasn't a problem at all. However, compared to a peerless expert, he was nothing. Uncle Lu, actually, I have something to trouble you with. I wonder if you are willing to do it. Qin Hao noticed the slight change in Lu Yu's expression. I'm willing. Young master, feel free to speak your mind. Hearing that, Lu Yu immediately became spirited. The hunt is imminent. Other than strengthening ourselves, we also need you. Qin Hao said a few more words before patting Lu Yu's shoulder. Then, he walked into the distance with a smile. Young master is truly a genius. Lu Yu's eyes lit up. He immediately ran toward 4th Elder Qin's courtyard. Whether this matter would succeed or not depended on 4th Elder of the Qin family. He didn't know if he was willing to help. However, it was truly shocking that young Master Qin Hao and young Mistress Xiao Han were able to consummate their marriage so quickly. Back in the room. It's my turn now. Qin Hao put down the medicinal pot and found a bowl. He poured a small amount of luyanjai into the bowl and drank it in a single gulp. He didn't drip any honey on it. The reason why he dripped some honey on Xiao Han was to take care of her taste buds. 1. After drinking the luyanjai, Qin Hao's body trembled slightly. His muscles twitched vigorously. At this moment, his entire body was filled with heat. Every pore on his body was emitting heat. The strength in his body was rising rapidly. I broke through again? Qin Hao was in disbelief. Without any obstacles, he successfully reached body tempering 2 Dan. He clenched his fist in front of his eyes. The strength in his hand clearly told him that he had indeed broken through. This shouldn't be. Based on his experience in his previous life, 1 mouthful of luyanjai wasn't enough to support a breakthrough. That's strange. Qin Hao sniffed the medicinal pot. There was nothing wrong with the luyanjai. Could it be that the root of the problem lies in his body? He relaxed and carefully sensed the changes in his body. There was nothing wrong with his body. Actually, when he was reborn, he had already checked his body. It was very ordinary. Based on his experience in his previous life, to break through from body tempering 1 Dan to body tempering 2 Dan, one would need to consume at least 3 to 5 times of luyanjai. Now, he had broken through in 1 mouthful. There must be something wrong. Unfortunately, Qin Hao didn't notice the minute details during the breakthrough. I can only wait for the next time. Qin Hao wasn't depressed or anxious. He had to stabilize his cultivation first. Otherwise, his foundation would be unstable. Based on his current situation, it shouldn't be a problem for him to reach body tempering 3 Dan before the hunt. Then, he would be able to defeat Zhuang Heba after mastering Golden Finger. Just you wait, I will open your eyes. Qin Hao smiled confidently. He sat cross-legged on the bed and began to cultivate the art of indestructible reincarnation. After his cultivation level increased, his cultivation technique naturally had to keep up. Then, he had to teach Xiao Han an origin skill. The cultivation technique that girls cultivated was different from men. Qin Hao wanted to teach her the art of indestructible reincarnation, but he realized that the art of indestructible reincarnation was too ferocious. When a woman cultivated it, her appearance and body would change. Qin Hao didn't want the well-behaved Xiao Han to become a muscular woman. Chapter 13. Killing the Moon the next day. Qin Hao called Xiao Han out of her room early in the morning. Qin Hao wasn't in a hurry to teach the excited Xiao Han. Instead, he taught her some basic sword technique. Xiao Han had never held a sword before, so he had to teach her how to use a sword first. As for Emperor Ziwei's sword technique, it was an astonishingly powerful high-grade heaven-rank sword technique. Its full name was Ziwei Heavenly Rainbow Sword. Qin Hao was extremely proud and aloof in his past life. He only had a few close friends. Emperor Ziwei admired Qin Hao greatly. Unfortunately, Qin Hao's heart already belonged to someone else at the time. Even after hundreds of years of friendship, he was never moved by her. The Ziwei Heavenly Rainbow Sword was created by him and Emperor Ziwei. However, when he was teaching Xiao Han today, something was very strange. In the beginning, Xiao Han's movements were very slow and clumsy. She was unbearably clumsy. After 1 round, her movements were surprisingly smooth. Not only was her movement smooth, but they were also like flowing water. Qin Hao even suspected that Xiao Han was a reincarnator like him. He had secretly observed Xiao Han and discovered that she was just an ordinary girl. An ordinary girl's talent was so high that even pill emperors gasped in admiration. At the back mountain of the Qin residence, Qin Hao let out a low roar. He gathered his strength, focused his finger, and stabbed 3 times in front of him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. His index finger stabbed into 3 huge rocks. Not only was he fast, but his finger technique was also quite vicious. He retracted his strength and relaxed his tense body. Break. Pung. The 3 huge rocks in front of him were reduced to rubble on the ground. Now that he could stab 3 times in a row, the rocks didn't even have a chance to form spiderwebs. Qin Hao smiled as he looked at the rubble scattered all over the ground. With the experience from his past life, his golden finger was slowly approaching the realm of phenomenal success. After last night's meditation, his indestructible reincarnation technique, a body tempering technique, had also improved from the first stage to the second stage. On the surface, Qin Hao was currently a second-stage body-tempering realm cultivator. In fact, his strength was comparable to a third-stage body-tempering realm cultivator. Coupled with his golden finger, which had an astonishing attack power, he was invincible within the 3rd level. Little Han is not simple. What happened in the morning surprised Qin Hao. Xiao Han was definitely not an ordinary person. How difficult was the martial Dao? The legendary geniuses who could shock the world did not exist. Only in ancient clans with long bloodlines would there be outstanding individuals with extraordinary talent. Family? Qin Hao frowned. He seemed to have caught the crux of the matter. Xiao Han's attainments in swordsmanship were too extraordinary. Could it be that she was a descendant of some great clan? Qin Hao remembered very clearly that Xiao Han was adopted by his father after he was placed at the entrance of the Qin mansion. The only thing on her body was the jade pendant with her name engraved on it. However, in Qin Hao's memory, there was no expert with the surname Xiao 600 years ago. Not to mention emperor-level experts, they didn't even have emperor-level experts. It seems that many major events have happened in the past 600 years. With a slight sigh, Qin Hao looked at the distant sky. Back then, he was also a nameless junior. He had relied on thousands of times more unremitting efforts to become an emperor. It wouldn't be surprising if some new experts had risen in the past 600 years. He nodded. It was getting late. He had to hurry home. Qin Hao had just lifted his foot when he heard the faint sound of swords clashing from afar. Someone was practicing swordsmanship at this time? The back of the mountain was his territory. Without permission, he would not allow anyone to trample on it. He put his hands behind his back and walked in the direction of the sound. He wanted to see who had eaten the courage of a leopard. After walking for an unknown amount of time, he finally arrived at the place where the sound came from. At first glance, Qin Hao's eyes widened. Good heavens! How could there be someone practicing swordsmanship? It was clearly a massacre, a bloody battle, a living person raising their hands and slashing down with their swords. In the forest ahead, 4 figures were fighting. Their movement techniques were incomparably fast. The shadows of swords and sabers flashed incessantly, creating balls of intense sparks. Qin Hao noticed that it was 3 men in black besieging a man in red. Every move they made was fatal, as if they would not stop until one of them was dead. Element gathering tear. Qin Hao hurriedly hid behind a rock. His heartbeat sped up. He didn't know if it was because he was too excited, but he felt as if his blood was burning. White light beams kept flying out of the battle ahead. Those light beams were extremely sharp. They directly pierced through a large tree, leaving behind a bowl-sized hole. This was the attack power that only element-gathering tier experts possessed. I am not their match now. I must not be discovered. Qin Hao took 2 deep breaths and suppressed his excitement. It had been too long since he had seen such a hot-blooded scene. For a moment, he couldn't control himself. In his previous life, those in element-gathering tier didn't even have the right to catch his eye. Now, any one of them could probably tear Qin Hao into pieces. At this time, the battle was about to end. It was obvious that one of them, who was also in element-gathering tier, would definitely not be able to defeat 3 of them. The guy who is being besieged can't hold on any longer. Qin Hao shook his head, feeling a little regretful. The young man in red was quite powerful. He could hold on for so long while being besieged by 3 people. Moreover, it seemed that he had been injured in advance. If he hadn't been injured, he might have been able to kill the 3 strong enemies. What a pity, what a pity! Blood Kirin, how dare you try to kill an elder all by yourself? Come back with us and apologize to the elder. If you don't, you will die without a complete corpse. Bulsh *T, that evil bastard killed my mother. Even if I become a ghost, I will not let him go. There was a commotion in front of him. So he is avenging his mother. Qin Hao could tell that the young man in red had not succeeded in his revenge. Instead, he was being hunted by his enemies. Thinking of this, a wave of anger rose in his heart. Qin Hao's parents had also been killed by the Zhuang clan. Should he help him? At this moment, Qin Hao was moved by compassion. But he shook his head. His opponents were too strong. Going out in his current state was no different from suicide. Let's see how long you can hold on. Break. There was a loud shout. One of the men dropped his weapon and pulled out a short sword from his waist. The short sword glowed with a purple light, and he thrust it forward. The young man in red was shocked, and he quickly raised his sword to block it. Ding! Catcha! There was a clanging sound, and the young man in red's weapon broke. Good sword! Qin Hao's eyes glowed. The short sword was made of extraordinary material, and it was a rare weapon. There were 3 types of weapons: ordinary weapons, sharp weapons, murder weapons, holy weapons, and godly weapons. In front of sharp weapons, ordinary weapons were like scrap metal. What Qin Hao lacked now was a suitable weapon. Purple meteorite sword. The young man in red's forehead was covered in sweat. His legs were shaking, and he looked very frightened. You have good taste. Surrender and you will have a complete corpse. The big man in black shouted. Bulsh *T. The young man in red suppressed his fear. He gripped the broken sword and jumped forward. You have a death wish. The big man in black shouted angrily. He poured all of his qi into the short sword in his hand, and the short sword exploded with a purple light. The young man in red was going to die after this attack. Whoosh! However, at this moment, a ghostly figure suddenly rushed into the battle. His movements were surprisingly fast. It was Qin Hao. Chapter 14. Lie down. He was still unable to control the great void cauldron, but if he could snatch this sword, it would be of great help to him in the future. Bone-splitting dragon hand. Just as the red-clothed lad's life was in danger, Qin Hao leaped forward and hugged him. At the same time, his right hand stretched out like a snake and strangely coiled around the black-clothed man's wrist, twisting it with all his might. Ah! With a scream, the black-clothed man was suddenly attacked and caught off guard. His wrist was shattered by Qin Hao, and the short sword slipped from his hand. Die! Qin Hao's eyes lit up. After snatching the sword, he twisted his body with the red-clothed lad in his arms, and the broken sword in the red-clothed lad's hand accurately pierced into the enemy's chest. His control was exquisite. Immediately, blood splattered everywhere, and the black-clothed man turned into a gray shadow and fell down. He had never thought that a person would suddenly appear in such a situation. Qin Hao took advantage of the enemy's unpreparedness, snatched the sword, and killed him in one go, neat and tidy. Unfortunately, it was still not enough. He had underestimated the power of the gathering Yuan state. Who's there? The black-clothed man did not die. At the critical moment, he avoided a fatal blow to his heart. At this moment, he crawled up with serious injuries and a broken sword in his chest, looking extremely miserable. The red-clothed lad was also stunned. He never thought that someone would help him, but in the next second he was furious. Where did this bastard's hand touch? Damn it! After Qin Hao snatched the sword, He was still hugging the red-clothed lad, and his hand just happened to land on the red-clothed lad's chest. Very full and bouncy. His chest muscles were well trained. Qin Hao sighed and immediately let go of the red-clothed lad. He kicked the sword on the ground away. What are you waiting for? Kill. There was not only one enemy, but 3. Even if one of them was seriously injured, there were still 2 powerful threats. Qin Hao's successful sneak attack did not mean that he could survive. He could only fight to the death. Thank you. The red-clothed lad immediately came back to his senses. He took the sword that Qin Hao kicked and raised his hand to hack at the other 2 enemies. You damned thing! The black-clothed man gnashed his teeth at Qin Hao. He hated him so much that blue veins appeared on his face. Just as the mission was about to be completed, this person interrupted. At this moment, he could already tell that the young man in front of him was only at the 2nd layer of body-tempering realm, a trash existence. Yet he had eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts, daring to interfere in a battle between martial artists of the element-gathering tier, and even snatching away his treasured sword. Humiliation! What a disgrace! Trash, I want you to die without a complete corpse! With a wild roar, the black-clothed man sent a palm strike at Qin Hao. Yuan Qi surged under his palm, and its power was astonishing. Water-wind steps. Qin Hao wouldn't catch it. With a strange movement, he dodged with all his might. Rumble! The palm brushed past Qin Hao's body and hit a big tree on the opposite side. The whole tree trunk was broken, and half of Qin Hao's body went numb. Element-gathering tier was indeed terrifying. Fortunately, this group of people fought too fiercely, and their physical strength was almost exhausted. Otherwise, Qin Hao wouldn't have been able to avoid it. He's not dead? The black-clothed man was shocked again. Even a body-tempering realm ant could survive under his palm. Shame. Shame again. Boss, do you want us to help you? At this moment, his accomplice shouted. The black-clothed man was seriously injured, and he might fail miserably. Don't worry about me. Kill the blood Kirin and don't leave him alive. As for him, he's as weak as a piece of shit. He can't even withstand a single blow. The black-clothed man didn't take Qin Hao seriously at all, and he didn't care about other people's help. If he couldn't even take care of this young man, he would be too ashamed to live in the future. Idiot! Qin Hao sneered. How stupid! Arrogant and conceited people would pay for their stupidity. You called me an idiot? You're asking for death. The black-clothed man was furious. Not only did his sword get snatched away, but he was also humiliated by a trash of the body-tempering realm. Eat my palm again! Immediately, he sent another palm strike at Qin Hao. Water-wind steps. Qin Hao was sweating profusely, and he focused all of his strength on his feet. The footwork he used was the water-wind footwork. It was a life-saving primordial skill called water-wind divine steps. If one practiced it to the highest level, one step could cross thousands of miles. One step could shatter the void. However, Qin Hao couldn't even use 1% of the skill's power. Boom! There was another explosion. Qin Hao dodged another palm strike, and the black-clothed man broke a tree as thick as his waist. At this time, Qin Hao's strength was almost exhausted. He couldn't dodge a third palm strike. Next, kill those 2. Qin Hao didn't even think. He threw the short sword with all his strength. The short sword flashed with a purple light, and it landed in the direction of the red-clothed man's battle. Qin Hao couldn't kill a gathering element realm martial artist, but the red-clothed man could. I can't let the blood Kirin get the purple meteorite sword. The black-clothed man was shocked. His companions knew how powerful the short sword was. Immediately, the 2 of them gave up on attacking the red-clothed brat and pounced towards the purple meteorite sword. Idiots! Qin Hao snorted, as if he could see the end of some unlucky man. The result was just as he had expected. When the enemy snatched the sword, The red-clothed man used the sword air to hit one of the enemies. The man's chest was pierced by the sword air, and he fell from the sky like a leaking bag. The other man saw his companion die, and he was so frightened that he retreated. Whoosh! A ghostly shadow flashed through the air, and the purple meteorite sword fell back into Qin Hao's hands. Not bad. The red-clothed man and Qin Hao were back to back, and he couldn't help but compliment him. Let's survive first. Qin Hao didn't let his guard down. He stared at the black-clothed man. His body was soaked in sweat, and he was almost out of strength. The red-clothed man wasn't doing much better. He had been injured, and he had been attacked for a long time. If Qin Hao hadn't come to his rescue, he wouldn't have been able to hold on. "You, second brother," the black-clothed man cried. His second brother had been killed. Originally, everything was fine. What was going on? "You little bastard. You're like dog shit. I'm going to cut you into pieces and burn you to ashes." The black-clothed man was furious. He hated Qin Hao to the core. He used up all his strength and threw a vicious punch at Qin Hao. This strike would definitely send the eyesore to the Yellow Springs. His accomplice also launched a sure-kill attack at the red-clothed kid. "What should I do? I don't have any strength left," the red-clothed man said dejectedly. He didn't want to give up. "Then lie down," Qin Hao said angrily. However, just as the fierce punch and the powerful sword were about to reach them, the two of them shouted at the same time, "Lie down!" Whoosh! Boom! The sword Qi tore through the wind from the palm and slashed at the black-clothed man from above Qin Hao's head. Whoosh! The black-clothed man's palm pierced through the sword Qi and fiercely slapped at his companion. Then, blood splattered in the air. The red-clothed man's companion was hit by the wind from the palm, and his clothes were torn into shreds. His eyes were wide open, and he fell to the ground like a pile of mud. Cough, cough, cough. You two bastards! Half of the black-clothed man's shoulder was cut open by the sword Qi. Although blood was gushing out, he was still alive. He lay on the ground and looked at the two people with hatred. No, to be precise, he was looking at the young man. Chapter 15. Little mushroom in red trash, right? Ka. Qin Hao lifted his foot and stepped on the man in black's wound. The black-clothed man screamed in pain. "Ant right? Ka." The second kick. "As weak as a piece of shit, right? Ka." The third kick. "Unable to withstand a single blow, weak as a piece of shit, ka." Ka. Ka. Qin Hao stomped on the enemy several times in a row, causing the man in black to be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Blood spurted out from under Qin Hao's feet like a fountain. Who said ants couldn't move an elephant? Who said small fries were destined to be looked down upon? Who said you couldn't achieve great things if you had the heart? Qin Hao proved with his actions that he had achieved everything. "You, who exactly are you?" The man in black was stepped on by Qin Hao until he was unrecognizable. His chest was badly sunken, and it looked like he wouldn't survive. Only now did he understand that the young man in front of him was no ordinary person. Being in the second layer of body tempering stage, he had the courage to fight with a martial artist of element gathering stage. Also, his movements were strange and unpredictable. From the beginning to the end, he had been so calm. This was an existence that couldn't be provoked. However, the man in black realized it too late. Looking up at the young man above him, he was like an emperor. But on the young man's face, there wasn't a trace of arrogance or joy after victory. He was still so calm, as if everything was as it should be. "Tell me, who exactly are you?" The man in black was unwilling to give up. He had to know who the young man in front of him was. "You don't have the right to know." Qin Hao slowly retracted his foot. Shwa! A sword light flashed. The man in black stared with bulging eyes, his expression terrified. Gradually, a line of blood seeped out from his neck. "You deserve to die." The one who attacked was the young man in red. After the sword strike, a trace of pleasure flashed across his face, but the hatred in his heart grew stronger. Qin Hao shook his head. He killed him just like that. Maybe if he chatted a little more, he would get an unexpected surprise. You're too impatient. Grumbling in dissatisfaction, Qin Hao's hands didn't stay idle. He searched the black-clothed man's bloody body. Banknotes, good stuff. Oh my. Qi replenishing pill, I've profited. F***ck porn. Not suitable for children, not suitable for children. Qin Hao threw away the bad picture scroll and scolded the black-clothed man for his immoral character. Then, he walked towards the other two corpses. That meticulous manner of cleaning up the battlefield was just short of stripping the other party's underwear off. Who the hell knew that he was an emperor of a generation? I say, everyone is dead, and your revenge has been avenged. Go do what you need to do. Also, you don't need to thank me. I don't leave my name when I do good deeds. If you really want to thank me, give me 100,000 or 80,000 in gold, or give me some heavenly treasures or elixirs. Do you have vitality elixirs? Qin Hao mumbled and turned around to look. The red-clothed boy swayed and staggered. Then, he fell to the ground. Hey! Qin Hao's feet stirred up wind as he used the water wind step to catch his opponent in time. He's exhausted. He checked the other party's breathing. The red-clothed boy's injuries were not light. He had lost too much blood and his physical strength was severely exhausted. He had been holding on until now by sheer willpower. Forget it, I'll be a good person to the end. I'll help him all the way. Qin Hao reluctantly took out the qi replenishing pill. He hadn't even warmed the pill in his hands yet. After stuffing the pill into the red-clothed boy's mouth, Qin Hao sat on the other party's body. He slowly exerted his strength and placed his palm on the other party's chest. Gulp! Borrowing the strength of his palm, the qi replenishing pill slid down the red-clothed boy's throat and into his stomach. He had to admit that this boy was quite handsome. His face was super white. Also, how did he train his chest muscles? They were so elastic and nice to touch. There was a faint fragrance on his body. Gradually, the red-clothed boy opened his tired eyes. Ah! Looking at the person on top of him, whose hands were shamelessly touching his body, the red-clothed boy let out an ear-piercing scream. He slapped Qin Hao's face, sending Qin Hao flying. Pooh! Qin Hao spat out a mouthful of blood and rolled 7 to 8 meters on the ground. He was battered and exhausted. The power of a martial artist in element-gathering tier was not to be underestimated. His brain was buzzing from the hit. Pervert! I'll kill you! The red-clothed boy's tears fell like rain. Due to excessive grief and anger, the headband that held his hair together fell off. His black hair cascaded down to his waist like a waterfall. She's a girl. Qin Hao covered his swollen face and looked at the other party in shock. You took advantage of me when I wasn't paying attention. Despicable. The red-clothed girl's tears rolled down her face like a broken string of beads. As a genius girl in element-gathering tier, her body had been touched by a shameless lackey in a moment of carelessness. Don't be impulsive. Calm down, calm down. I was saving you. Qin Hao felt a headache coming on. He had been so focused on snatching the sword that he hadn't realized that the red-clothed boy was a girl. There's no point in talking, pervert, die. The blood Kirin didn't listen to any explanation. It waved its sword and stabbed at him. Plop! She had just lifted her foot when her legs gave way and she fell to the ground. Look, I told you not to be impulsive. Qin Hao patted the dust off his body. He covered his red face and crawled up. I was really saving you just now. Your body was very weak, so I gave you a qi replenishing pill. Speaking of the qi replenishing pill, Qin Hao's heart ached. He couldn't concoct pills yet. He had only found one. But in the end, he saved her. Not only did she not thank him, she even tried to kill him. What a loss! The blood Kirin lay on the ground, its face full of humiliation. It trembled as it cried. But it also noticed that there was a fragrance in its mouth. Its depleted chi had indeed been replenished. Qin Hao had indeed saved her. I don't want to see you again. The blood Kirin gritted its teeth and propped itself up. It dragged its wounds with it as it left. Don't try to be brave. You need to rest now. Don't come near me. The blood Kirin turned around and shouted angrily. The tears on its face were pitiful. After shouting at Qin Hao, it stubbornly staggered away. Since the pervert had saved her, she couldn't repay his kindness by killing him. Ah! Qin Hao sighed. This girl was really stubborn. He used his internal strength and shouted, Hey! I respect you for being a man. That's why I saved you. Far away, the blood Kirin felt something sweet in its throat. It almost coughed up blood. Respect me for being a man? What did that mean? She lowered her head and looked at her chest. Did he think she had no boobs? D*mn pervert. The next time I see you, I will kill you. Suddenly, the blood Kirin cried and disappeared into the forest. She had fled to this place, hoping to seek refuge with a distant relative named Qin. She hadn't expected to run into a shameless pervert. I really like you. Qin Hao shook his head in disappointment. Never mind. This girl's combat ability was very strong. She was born to be an assassin. If she was trained well, her future would be limitless. But she was too disobedient. She wanted to kill him. Let her be. Actually, Qin Hao was more afraid of the blood Kirin stealing his short sword. What a good sword! Looking at the foot-long purple meteorite sword in his hand, Qin Hao looked very happy after his rebirth. With this sword, taking first place in the hunt would be as easy as pie. Chapter 16. A swift soared. The sun was shining brightly, and the spring breeze was fragrant. The weather in May was exceptionally bright, and the entire Akita town was bustling. The hunting season was about to begin. Qin Manor, East Courtyard, a figure danced gracefully under the sunlight. Occasionally, there would be traces of dazzling sword light. Xiao Han was practicing her swordsmanship. Every time she waved her sword, she was extremely serious. Not only were her movements smooth, but it was as if the sword and her were one. Qin Hao stood at the side with a smile on his face, deep in thought. In the past 10 days, Xiao Han had made rapid progress. Not only her swordsmanship, but she had also broken through to body tempering stage 2. Without taking any pills, she had broken through to body tempering stage 2 with her willpower. Her talent was astonishing. This girl was not simple. Of course, Qin Hao was not idle either. After snatching the sword last time, he burned the corpse to ashes, leaving no trace behind. He had also successfully cultivated Golden Finger to great accomplishment. Other than the 1,000 taels of silver that he had plundered, the happiest thing was the sword that he had snatched. The purple meteorite sword was shaped like a dagger. It was about a foot long and it was extremely sharp. Qin Hao discovered that its material was very special. It looked like purple meteorite iron on the outside, but it actually contained a large amount of sunset stone. The quality of the sunset stone was extremely high, and it was an essential material for forging sacred weapons. It was because of this that Qin Hao had noticed the extraordinariness of the purple meteorite sword. Aside from the surface, the entire sword was made of sunset stone. It was simply a priceless treasure. Unfortunately, the black-clothed man's eyes were ordinary, and he treated the sword as an ordinary weapon. It was a waste of God's gift. How is it? My swordsmanship is amazing, right? Xiao Han wiped her sweat and came to Qin Hao's side, looking at him with a pair of cute big eyes. She had worked very hard these past 10 days, to the point that she had almost forgotten to eat and sleep. Now, the young girl had lost some of her innocence and gained some of her heroic spirit. No, it was confidence. It was the kind of confidence that came from possessing great power. Not bad, Qin Hao said lightly. Ah, it's not bad. Xiao Han looked disappointed. She thought that Qin Hao would praise her. Brother Qin Hao, I can already use the basic sword moves with ease. Please teach me some real skills. Xiao Han grabbed Qin Hao's arm. Qin Hao looked at her calmly and said nothing. Is it not time yet? Xiao Han asked carefully. Qin Hao remained silent. I've already tried my best. Xiao Han's eyes were filled with tears. Qin Hao was still unmoved. Boo-hoo. I want to be more powerful so that I can help Big Brother Qin Hao in the future. Xiao Han really cried, tears streaming down her face. Why are you crying? I was just teasing you. Qin Hao laughed and wiped away her tears. He looked at Xiao Han and nodded. It's time. Really? Xiao Han instantly smiled through her tears. She was very excited at this moment. She had waited for too long. Yes, Qin Hao said seriously. The sword technique I'm going to teach you is called the Crepe Myrtle Heavenly Rainbow Sword. Remember, you can't teach it to a second person. I'll listen to everything Big Brother Qin Hao says. Xiao Han agreed immediately. Qin Hao took the sword from Xiao Han's hand. His fingers slowly stroked the cold blade, then he flicked it. Ding! The long sword made a clear sound. At this moment, a fallen leaf floated in front of them. The first move. Graceful sword. Qin Hao suddenly raised his wrist. It was as fast as lightning. Swoosh. A cold light flew out from the side. It was unbelievably fast. Xiao Han's eyes widened. Was this the invincible sword technique she had been waiting for? He just raised his hand and it was over? Was Big Brother Qin Hao joking with her again? Swish, 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 purring. Just as Xiao Han was in a daze, the fallen leaf in midair suddenly broke into pieces. Then the pieces turned into powder in front of her eyes. Boom! Xiao Han seemed to have been struck in the head by a thunderbolt. Her expression was extremely shocked. She said in a daze, "One sword. Shock. Hong." She was really shocked. One sword. Although it was very fast, Qin Hao only used one sword. And the effect of this sword was too shocking. It was simply unimaginable. With one sword, it cut through everything and turned them into powder. So powerful, how did you do it? Xiao Han looked at Qin Hao as if she was possessed. A trace of fear flashed in her eyes. Qin Hao's breathing was extremely heavy. Large beads of sweat rolled down his cheeks. His face was pale. This sword technique had consumed a lot of his energy. Girl, it's not easy to master this sword technique. Qin Hao slowly explained. In the divine wilderness continent, people had perfected sword techniques to the extreme. One of them was called the sword drawing technique. It meant that the moment the sword was drawn, the enemy's life would be taken. Qin Hao's fleeting sword was the pinnacle of the sword drawing technique that he and the North Pole Emperor had researched. However, he was too weak now. The moment he drew the sword, he could only use 5 moves at most. Moreover, he could only use his technique and strength to create a shockwave. If he broke through to the elemental gathering realm, once Qin Hao's body produced origin chi. This sword technique was no joke. Sword drawing technique. Fleeting sword. Xiao Han muttered to herself. It was as if her soul was trapped in Qin Hao's explanation. Next, it's up to you. Qin Hao patted Xiao Han's shoulder and walked tiredly into his room. It had been too long since he used this technique. His body really couldn't take it. If it weren't for the fact that he wanted to demonstrate to Xiao Han, Qin Hao wouldn't have risked his life like this. If he used fleeting sword with his weak body, the slightest mistake would cause his body to collapse. Tomorrow is the hunt. I need to break through to the 3rd stage of body tempering realm. Qin Hao rested for a short while. The meeting with Zhuang Hebo was tomorrow. Right now, he needed to break through. Only by breaking through to the third stage of body tempering realm would he be able to defeat Zhuang Heba. Qin Hao took out the Luoyang liquid and was about to drink it. At this moment, he noticed 2 small bottles placed on the bedside table. Vitality Enhancing Pill. This was the gift that Qin Laosi gave to Qin Hao. The Luoyang liquid can improve an ordinary person's body. It might be very beneficial for Brother Yu. I can't let fourth uncle be sad anymore. Qin Hao still remembered the changes that happened to Mother Fu's body last time. Although the vitality-enhancing pill was precious, sometimes it was not as effective as the Luoyang liquid. Qin Yu was tortured by illness all year round. He needed the Luoyang liquid to nourish his body. The only thing Qin Hao could do was save the Luoyang liquid. To me, the effects are all the same. Qin Hao put down the medicine pot and took a jade bottle from the bedside table. The vitality-enhancing pill was very powerful. 1 pill was enough to break through body tempering stage 3. After removing the cork, Qin Hao was shocked. No, it was anger. He was so angry that the veins on his face were bulging. This was the second time Qin Hao was angry after his rebirth. It was the anger of an emperor. He could tolerate anything, but the one thing he could not tolerate was the blasphemy of pills. Because Qin Hao was dandy. Bang! He threw the jade bottle on the ground. A pill as white as jade immediately shattered into several pieces. Bastard! Making such trash, you deserve to die. Qin Hao's eyes were spitting fire. The pill that Qin Laosi gave him was not a problem. He had put in a lot of effort to make it. The problem was that this pill was made with poor materials, which greatly reduced the effects of the pill. This pill was originally meant to cure Qin Yu's illness. The person who made this pill was trying to harm fourth uncle and Brother Yu. If I catch him, I will definitely destroy his alchemy skills, skin him alive, and pull out his tendons. Qin Hao was really angry. To him, alchemy was his life. Chapter 17. Qin Hao is here. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Qin Hao took the second jade bottle. He opened it and found that it was still a low-quality pill. 2 pills added together could not even compare to a normal vitality enhancement pill. Falling to the ground again, Qin Hao suppressed the anger in his heart and picked up the broken pieces on the ground. He found a bowl, poured a small amount of water, and put the broken pieces of the pill into the bowl. The broken pieces melted in the water and were finally purified into dregs. Qin Hao carefully poured away the water and squeezed out the dregs. A look of regret flashed across his face. He became an alchemy emperor using pills. If he didn't have pills, he wouldn't have been an alchemy emperor who could intimidate everyone. Fourth uncle's painstaking efforts were deceived by a villain. If Brother Yu had been eating this kind of pill, how could he have gotten better? Qin Hao shook his head and decided to hide this matter. As long as he observed in the dark, he would catch the person behind this sooner or later. He squeezed the dregs and put them into his mouth. This was the true essence left after purification. However, it tasted especially bitter. If it were someone else, they would have vomited. However, Qin Hao did not. He closed his eyes and seemed to enjoy the pain. Only by enduring the most bitter of hardships could one become an emperor. After the pill entered his stomach, he sat cross-legged on the bed and circulated his alchemy throughout his body. Qin Hao would not waste a single pill even if he cut corners on the 2 pills. The dregs were enough to help him break through to body tempering stage 3. Qin Hao remembered that the situation when he broke through last time was very strange. This time, he must find the reason. In an instant, a familiar feeling attacked him again. A huge amount of heat spread from his dantian and quickly spread throughout his body. His muscles were jumping vigorously. The effect of the pill is normal. My body is normal. Strange, Qin Hao carefully sensed every change, but there was nothing special about it. What exactly was the problem? Whoosh! A thought flashed through his mind. It's here. Ha ha ha! Although it was well hidden, it could not escape Denda's eyes. In his mind, the divine artifact Great Void Cauldron floated quietly, emitting a faint purple light. It looked very normal. However, within that purple light, there was a trace of power that caused the purple light to turn a faint red. Qin Hao sent his consciousness deep into the Great Void Cauldron and was shocked to find a drop of blood hidden inside. This drop of blood was like a ruby, emitting a dark red light that gathered without dissipating. The power it stored was extremely shocking. It was an aura that had never been seen before, and it gave people an intense feeling of intimidation. Even though Qin Hao was an emperor-level soul, he couldn't help but have the urge to worship it. This was a drop of fiend god blood essence. So that's how it is. This is the blood essence left behind by a deity-level expert. With this blood essence, I won't have to worry about becoming a god. Qin Hao let out a long laugh, laughing so hard that his face was full of tears. 600 years of pain. Betrayal. Daqin changed hands. The lost sunset bow. It was worth it. All the pain was worth it, Han Lingxian. You didn't expect this, did you? Zhan Wu, you didn't expect this either, did you? Using the god-punishing array to kill my old fogies. None of you expected this, right? This is the only remaining fiend god blood essence in the entire continent. Tremble, be afraid. You will never be able to raise your heads in front of me. Qin Hao seemed to see everyone trembling the moment he returned. At this moment, the blood essence in the cauldron released a layer of red light. The red light spread to every part of his body like water ripples. Qin Hao's body immediately tensed up. The medicine in his body was instantly activated by the blood essence, and his cultivation level reached body tempering stage 3 without any hindrance. Buzz. A burst of heat spread from his body, and his tense muscles gradually relaxed. A powerful force quietly awakened in Qin Hao's body. So it can increase the speed of cultivation. Qin Hao's lips curled into a smile. Increasing the speed of cultivation was only one of the blood essence's abilities. Perhaps it had an even greater use. This would take some time to slowly uncover. Zhuang Heba, Qin Yuhai. I'm here to pamper you. Tomorrow was the day of the hunt. Qin Hao had successfully broken through to body tempering stage 3, and his heaven-grade golden finger had reached greater mastery. He also had the purple meteorite sword. This battle was really something to look forward to. Mt. Akikes was a barren mountain 5 kilometers away from Akita town. Ancient trees towered into the sky, and wild beasts were everywhere. It was the location of the hunt. Early in the morning, the foot of Mt. Akikes was filled with people. Apart from the elders of the town, there were also commoners who had come to watch the show. 2 rows of people were dressed in bright armor, and they were full of fighting spirit. They were the people from the Zhua and Zhuang families. At this moment, the guards from the 2 families were coldly staring at each other. Some of them even had their hands on the hilts of their swords. Both sides were secretly provoking each other, and the smell of gunpowder filled the air. Zhua Junshan of the Zhua family stood coldly in front of the group, holding a snow-silver sword. His eyes were intentionally looking at a young man in the Zhuang family's group. That young man was 8 feet tall and had a strong physique. His entire body was filled with wild energy. It was Zhuang Heba. Zhua Junshan's strength was at body tempering stage 4, and he cultivated the Zhua family's secret technique, Mountain Splitting Palm. Mountain Splitting Palm was a profound class, low-level origin skill. Zhuang Heba was even more ferocious. His strength was at body tempering stage 5, and his heart-piercing finger was also a profound class, low-level origin skill. Zhua Junshan saw Zhuang Heba as his only threat. However, he didn't think that he would lose. This was because his mountain splitting palm had been cultivated to great mastery, while Zhuang Heba's heart-piercing finger was still at small mastery. It was extremely difficult to cultivate finger techniques, and ordinary people couldn't endure it. It was said that Zhuang Heba was still using cinnabar to practice finger technique. If he dared to use his finger to poke a rock, Zhuo Junqian admitted defeat. As for the Qin family, Zhuo Junqian laughed. The old man of the Qin family was blind. He didn't want Qin Dapeng to fight, so he sent Qin Hao instead. Who was Qin Hao? He was a piece of trash. Zhuo Junqian couldn't be bothered to look at Qin Hao. That piece of trash was no different from air. The only person he needed to pay attention to was the muscular man in front of him, Zhuang Heba. Zhuang Heba sneered, as if he felt Zhuo Junqian sneaking glances at him. His laughter was filled with contempt. Who was Zhuo Junqian? Zhuang Heba lowered his head and looked at the machete in his hand. This machete wasn't easy to obtain. It was a mid-grade sharp weapon. The old man had spent a lot of money to buy it from the city. Zhuang Heba had a powerful weapon in his hand. He was a 5th stage body tempering realm stage 5, and he was definitely going to get first place. Why isn't the Qin family here yet? Could it be that they're scared? I heard that the person who will fight is Qin Hao. Qin Hao? Trash Qin? Ha ha. How can he be compared to young Master Zhuang and young Master Zhua? He's overestimating himself. He's asking to be humiliated. He's not good enough. He's more like young Master Dapeng. The spectators were discussing fervently. What the hell is Qin Shilong doing? An old man looked at the rising sun with dissatisfaction. He had waited for so long. He was Zhuo Wentian, Zhuo Junqian's grandfather. He was also the person in charge of this hunt. He was surprised that the Qin family had sent Qin Hao to fight. He couldn't help but mock them. What could Qin Hao do? Become a pile of dung for the wild beasts? Look, the Qin clanspeople are here. Someone shouted. Zhuo Wentian turned his head to look. A long line of people was slowly approaching from afar. The sound of gongs and drums could be heard from the group. Chapter 18. Go back and prepare the coffins. Qin Dapeng swaggered in front of the group, carrying a large copper gong. Qin Yuhai followed behind Qin Dapeng with a stick. With every step he took, he would hit the copper gong, creating a loud noise. The two of them walked and shouted as they walked. They were as happy as they could be. However, the ancestor of the Qin family, Qin Shilong, did not come. Zhuo Wentian frowned. What the hell? Zhuang Maoxian was certain that Zhuang Heba would take first place, so he did not come. Did Qin Shilong not come because he was embarrassed? That must be it. Qin Hao was only in the first layer of body tempering realm. He was so embarrassed. In fact, that was indeed the case. Qin Shilong thought that Qin Hao was too weak and was certain that he would lose. If he came, he would be ridiculed by the villagers. As for Qin Yuhai and Qin Dapeng, they were deliberately making fun of Qin Hao. How are you confident? Qin Laoxi's palms were sweaty. Zhuang Heba and Zhuo Junqian were too strong. Don't worry, fourth uncle, Qin Hao said calmly. He turned to Lu Yu and asked, Uncle Lu, is everything done? As per young master's orders, everything is done. Lu Yu laughed when he thought about it. A good show was about to start. 10 days ago, according to Qin Hao's instructions, Lu Yu asked Qin Laoxi for a painting. Zhuo Wentian had a hobby of collecting famous paintings. Qin Hao asked him to send the painting to Zhuo Wentian. He hoped that Zhuo Junqian would let him off during the hunt and not clash with Qin Hao. Zhuo Wentian liked the painting very much. It was a piece of cake for him to agree. Since Zhuo Junqian did not want to clash with Qin Hao, he could only clash with Zhuang Heba. Oh, there's also this. Lu Yu passed the rope on his shoulder to Qin Hao. This was not an ordinary rope. It was the tendon of a 5th-level yak. It was extremely tough. In his previous life, apart from alchemy, Qin Hao's research on formations had reached the peak of perfection. This yak tendon was the key to his victory today. Old hero Zhuo, long time no see. Greetings on behalf of my father. When the group arrived at the foot of the mountain, Qin Laosi took the lead and bowed towards Zhuo Wentian. The old man of the Zhuo family had extraordinary strength and was the #1 expert in the town. That was why he was qualified to supervise the hunt. No need for formalities, you're so late. Zhuo Wentian was slightly dissatisfied. He glanced at the younger generation of the Qin family. Qin Dupeng nodded and bowed in excitement, almost licking old man Zhuo's butt. Zhuo Wentian stroked his beard and laughed, then his gaze landed on Qin Hao, and immediately frowned. Qin Hao's face was calm. Let alone being excited, he didn't even have the least bit of respect for the old man. What an unappreciative thing. Since everyone is here, let's begin. Zhuo Wentian's good mood plummeted as he coldly pointed at the mountain in front of him. Wait a minute, Qin Hao said. Zhuo Wentian laughed inwardly. This brat Qin Hao was finally afraid. Senior Zhuo, as long as we kill the strongest beast on the mountain, we'll be #1, right? Qin Hao asked. Yes, no matter the method, you'll be #1 if you kill a rank 5 beast. Zhuo Wentian said indifferently. Qin Hao actually didn't beg the old man, if you're afraid, then scram back, ha ha. Zhuo Wentian finally couldn't hold back and laughed wildly in front of hundreds of people. What did Qin Hao bring with him? A rope? His snow-silver knife was a low-grade sharp weapon, and Zhuang Heba's machete was a mid-grade sharp weapon. The Qin family was so poor that they brought a rope to embarrass themselves. For Xiao Han's sake, I'll allow you to follow behind me and take advantage of the situation. Zhuang Heba arrogantly raised his head. As he spoke, he looked at Xiao Han with an evil gaze. However, Xiao Han didn't even look at him. Hee, so that's how it is. I understand. Let's begin. Qin Hao didn't back down, nor did he try to curry favor with Zhuang Heba. Instead, he fearlessly walked forward bravely. You overestimate yourself. Zhuo Wentian snorted coldly and walked up the mountain with large strides. Remember our agreement, hee. Zhuang Heba gripped his machete tightly and followed behind Zhuo Wentian. As he walked, he turned around and shouted at Xiao Han. Wait for me, I'll show you what it means to be invincible tonight. Xiao Han was so angry that his body trembled. He clenched his fists tightly. Brat from the Qin family, don't blame the old man for not reminding you. With your level, you can't even deal with a rank 1 beast. Going up the mountain is no different from seeking death. It's fine if you die, but I pity my brother Qin. Zhuo Wentian said with a compassionate expression. He was just short of tears. You don't have to worry about that. Qin Hao felt like vomiting as he looked at them. He turned around and walked up the mountain. But he hadn't taken 2 steps when he turned around and shouted, Senior Zhuo, we agreed that Brother Junchen would help me, right? Qin Hao used all his strength to shout. His voice spread out and everyone heard him clearly. Old man is a man of his word. Don't worry. Zhuo Wentian replied loudly. His voice was unusually deep. In front, Zhuang Heba's heart skipped a beat. He stared at Zhuo Wentian with an unfriendly gaze. Could it be that the Qin family and the Zhuo family had reached some kind of agreement? Are they trying to trick me? At this moment, Zhuang Heba forgot about the hunt. Zhuo Wentian was his main target. Zhuo Wentian didn't notice anything. Instead, he laughed coldly in his heart. He was just letting Qin Hao go. It was no big deal. Qin Hao was really a coward. Hee, thank you, Senior Zhuo. Qin Hao had achieved his goal. He picked up the yak tendon and disappeared into the forest. Hey, kid from the Qin family, you have to do your best. Don't be so scared that you peed your pants. Your grandfather will cry. Ha ha, the elders at the foot of the mountain laughed. Qin Hao, a body-tempering stage 1, was participating in the hunt. He had set a precedent in Akita town. Qin Hao, Gidge, you will win. Hauer, I believe in you. Young master, do your best. Xiao Han, Qin Laosi, and Lu Yu also cheered loudly. Win? If he can win, I'll eat sh*t. Qin Dapeng could no longer keep up the act. He threw the gong in his hand to the ground. Brother, go back and prepare a coffin. Let's hold a grand funeral for Hao. Ah! Qin Yuhai was so happy that his eyes narrowed into slits. Qin Hao was still dreaming of winning the medicine shop. He would most likely become a beast's sh*t today. Serves him right. In the mountains the trees covered the sky. It was humid. The cries of beasts could be heard everywhere. It was like hell. Swoosh! A figure flashed past. Plop! A large piebald wolf flew a few meters into the air, leaving a trail of blood behind it. After it landed, it twitched twice and died. On its head, there was a finger-sized bloody hole that was so eye-catching. It had been killed in one move. This was a stage 2 piebald wolf. It was so weak that it couldn't even withstand a finger strike. Qin Hao didn't even look at the prey. He picked up the yak tendon and went straight to the top of the mountain. You can't even deal with a stage 1 beast? That's right. I can only kill stage 5 beasts. Qin Hao still remembered Zhuo Wentian's mocking words. Chapter 19. Chapter 19 Rope binding. Although there was no time limit for hunting, there was only one rank 5 beast. Killing the 5th order beast at the top of the mountain was the first prize. This was a test of one's ability. Qin Hao did not have much time left. He had to reach the peak before Zhuang Heba and Zhuo Junchen. Along the way, he had to break through a large number of wild beasts. Qin Hao's journey was smooth and unimpeded. Any wild beasts that didn't know what was going on were all killed by Qin Hao in one strike. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, they were already halfway up the mountain. Roar! At this moment, the ferocious roar of a tiger came from the front. A 3-meter-tall, incomparably majestic striped tiger blocked the way. This was a ferocious tiger that possessed the strength of a Tier 3 martial artist. It was comparable to a Tier 3 martial artist of body-tempering realm. However, everyone knew that wild beasts were naturally stronger than humans. Therefore, it was even more terrifying than a body-tempering stage 3 cultivator. Scram! Qin Hao didn't waste any time. His speed didn't decrease at all as he rushed forward. As he ran, his right hand stroked the purple meteorite sword at his waist, and a cold light flashed. Roar! The striped tiger was infuriated by this provocation. The 3-meter-tall tiger stood upright, opened its bloody mouth, and slapped Qin Hao's head with its thick tiger paw. If an ordinary person saw this scene, they would definitely be scared out of their wit. The weak young man dared to run against the giant tiger. Phew! The tiger paw landed heavily. A streak of purple cold light flashed by. The palm split open, blood spurted out, and a ferocious tiger head flew into the air. Plop! The striped tiger's majestic body fell to the ground, blood gushing out in a large area. The eyes of the tiger head that had rolled far away were filled with fear, as if it had seen the most terrifying demon in the world. Can't even withstand a single blow. Qin Hao returned the purple meteorite sword to its scabbard and ran without stopping. The striped tiger was comparable to a body-tempering stage 3 yuan cultivator. Its tiger paws were incomparably hard. In front of the purple meteorite sword, it was cut open like tofu. Qin Hao's sword moved unconventionally. After splitting open the tiger's paw, he directly cut off the tiger's head. This was the power of having a sharp weapon. However, the purple meteorite sword had yet to display its true power. It was still a very primitive sword that had not been carefully carved. Bang! 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 A series of explosions came from afar, and the birds in the forest were frightened and fled into the sky. Then, angry insults drifted into his ears. Qin Hao smiled faintly. He knew that Zhuang Heba and Zhuo Junchen had started fighting. Let them bite each other. This was the result that Qin Hao wanted. Only when the two megalomaniacs started fighting would he have enough time to kill the rank 5 beast at the top of the mountain. Zhuo Junchen wouldn't be able to last much longer under Zhuang Ji's 8 hands. We have to lure the target here. Qin Hao looked around. Not far away, a few towering trees made his eyes light up. These trees were different from the rest. They towered over the mountains like giants. They were at least 200 years old and were incomparably sturdy. This was exactly what Qin Hao needed the most. In his previous life, other than alchemy, he was also proficient in all kinds of formations, weapon forging, and inscriptions. Due to the lack of materials, Qin Hao only had time to find yak tendons, and it was thanks to Qin Laoxi's help. He wanted to use the sturdy old trees and the yak tendons to weave a simple array. It was called rope binding. Rank 5 beasts had gained intelligence and were extremely strong. If he were to fight them head-on, he would have to pay a huge price. Qin Hao wasn't that stupid. No matter what, he had to preserve some of his strength. That was the only way to survive in this dangerous world. Nodding his head, he headed straight for the old trees. First, he had to use the terrain to activate the rope-binding formation and lure the rank 5 beast over. They were stunned. A strong sense of danger made him stop in his tracks. Shua! Qin Hao pulled out the purple meteorite sword and stared ahead cautiously. He saw a large rat squatting under the tree. Its round belly was very fat, and its 2 sharp fangs looked particularly terrifying in the dark shade. Corpse flash rat! Qin Hao's body tensed up, and he was on high alert. This wasn't an ordinary rat. It was a rank 4 corpse flash rat. Not only was it fast, but its attack power was also very strong. To a certain extent, it was even more terrifying than a rank 5 beast. F***ck, I hit the jackpot. Qin Hao cursed in his heart. How unlucky! With his current strength, he was stronger than a rank 4 body-tempering realm cultivator, but definitely not as strong as a rank 5 body-tempering realm cultivator. It wasn't easy to kill the corpse flash rat in front of him. More importantly, it would greatly consume Qin Hao's time. Squeak! Squeak! The corpse flash rat seemed to have felt the threat from the human in front of it. It bared its fangs and used its claws to fling the soil under it. This was a sign that it was about to attack. Damn it! Xiao Han's lifelong happiness was in his hands, and the dignified Dende was actually blocked by a stinky rat in front of him. Qin Hao couldn't help but be enraged. Get lost! Get lost! Get lost! Get lost! Qin Hao let out a thunderous roar. His roar was like a sound wave that reverberated back and forth in the forest like a dragon. Squeak! Squeak! The corpse flash rat seemed to have been frightened by Qin Hao's roar. It shivered and disappeared from the spot. Whew! Qin Hao heaved a sigh of relief. His tense body relaxed and his clothes were soaked in sweat. The corpse flash rat was after all a rank 4 beast. It had gained some intelligence and knew that the human in front of it wasn't to be trifled with. Just now, Qin Hao was in a fit of rage and unleashed the aura of an emperor. With a roar, he was able to force the rank 4 beast to retreat. This wasn't luck, but a manifestation of strength, an awe-inspiring awe. It's too late. Qin Hao didn't dare to delay. He quickly removed the yak tendon from his shoulder and shuttled back and forth between the ancient trees. He first tied one tree and then another. The ropes intertwined back and forth. Looking from above, it looked like a hexagram. Although Qin Hao didn't tie the ropes tightly, it was actually very loose. However, one shouldn't underestimate this rope-binding formation. Once one of the strings was touched, the other strings hidden in the dark would wrap around the target like venomous snake. Once the target was wrapped, it would be stuck like a spider's web. The yak was also a rank 5 beast. With its tendon, it could definitely trap the big guy in the mountain. Let's go. After setting up the rope-binding formation, Qin Hao used the water wind steps and quickly ran to the top of the mountain. He hoped that Zhuo Junchen wouldn't lose so quickly to Zhuang Heba so that he could buy some time for Qin Hao. Just as he was about to move, in another part of the mountain forest, Zhuo Junchen was lying on the ground, covered in blood. His snow-silver saber was also broken in two. As for the mountain-splitting palm that he was so proud of, there was a bloody hole in his palm. The hole was about the size of a thumb. It was pierced through by a finger. Zhuo Junchen was completely defeated. Damn it! Pei Zhuang Heba spat a mouthful of phlegm on Zhuo Junchen's face. That wasn't enough to vent his anger. He kicked Zhuo Junchen away. He actually wanted to team up with that trash Qin Hao to trick me. At this moment, Zhuang Heba's situation wasn't looking good either. His clothes were tattered, revealing two black palm prints. They were caused by Zhuo Junchen. Moreover, his thigh had also been slashed and was bleeding profusely. If it weren't for the fact that the machete in his hand was of a higher quality, it would have cut Zhuo Junchen's snow-silver saber in two. He might have really fallen for the other party's trick. Unfortunately, this Zhuo guy was still too inexperienced. He had underestimated the power of the heart-piercing finger. Although finger techniques were extremely difficult to cultivate, they were much easier than palm techniques and fist technique. In terms of power, they couldn't be compared. Chapter 20. Chapter 20. Rank 6 White Ape Roar. At this moment, a ferocious roar came from the top of the mountain. Not good. Zhuang Heba's expression changed drastically. Someone had angered a rank 5 beast. Other than Zhuo Junchen, Qin Hao had also come to hunt. Could it be Qin Hao, that trash? You dare to compete with me? Watch as I poke your dog head with a finger, and then cut off your thigh with a knife. A mere body tempering stage 1 cultivator dared to provoke a rank 5 wild beast. He was simply courting death. Zhuang Heba was extremely confident in his heart-piercing finger. He couldn't be bothered to look at Zhuo Junchen, who was lying on the ground, and ran up the mountain. He had to win the agreement between him and Qin Hao. Just as he lifted his leg, a heart-wrenching pain spread throughout his body. It was so painful that Zhuang Jiba broke out in cold sweat. His leg had been cut by Zhuo Junchen, which greatly affected his mobility. That son of a bitch, Zhuo Junchen. Zhuang Heba clenched his teeth and limped towards the top of the mountain. At this time, his combat strength had already shrunk greatly. On top of the mountain, the angry roar did not stop for a moment. The anger of a rank 5 beast made the surrounding small animals tremble. It's actually a monkey. Qin Hao used the water wind steps to quickly shuttle through the forest, heading straight for the rope binding array. Behind him, a snow-white ape was in hot pursuit. The white ape was extremely strong, and its huge body was at least 4 meters tall. It moved nimbly, climbing the branches like a swing as it chased after Qin Hao. Every time it shook off the tree trunk, the entire tree would be shaken down. Its momentum was extremely great. This was the only king of MT Autumn Wind, the rank 5 white ape. At this moment it was infuriated. It must kill the fleeing humans in front of it. That shameless fellow, while it was sleeping, he cut a hole in the king's butt. Despicable. Tier 5 wild beasts are indeed extraordinary. Qin Hao felt a little helpless. His full-strength sneak attack had only left a small wound on the white ape's butt. It wasn't that Qin Hao's purple meteorite sword wasn't sharp enough, but that he wasn't strong enough to break through white ape's defense. This white ape wasn't as simple as it looked. Fortunately, Qin Hao had made sufficient preparations. As long as the white ape fell into the binding rope array, it would be slaughtered. Swish, 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 several broken branches streaked across the air, leaving behind afterimages as they pierced towards Qin Hao's back with a piercing sound. Qin Hao used his water wind steps, dodging left and right, his body almost parallel to the ground. Then, he suddenly did a somersault in the air. Whoosh! The last sharp branch brushed past the corner of his clothes and flew out, firmly nailing itself to a large tree. The entire tree trunk had been pierced through. That was close. Qin Hao broke out in a cold sweat. The white ape still knew how to attack to slow him down while chasing after him. At this moment, the distance between White Ape and Qin Hao was getting smaller and smaller, and it looked like it was about to catch up. Qin Hao wasn't worried in the slightest. Using his aqua fire steps, he instantly pulled apart the distance between them. Rank 5 beasts had intelligence, so he had to create the illusion that the white ape was about to catch up. Only in this way would it keep chasing after them. Suddenly, one man and one beast started a tug-of-war in the forest. Leaving behind a trail of destruction, they were getting closer and closer to the binding rope array. Swish! Qin Hao suddenly stopped. Around him, there were several large and sturdy old trees. The corner of his mouth slowly raised. Qin Hao turned around and curled his finger at the white ape that was chasing after him. Roar! The white ape was enraged. With a roar, it jumped towards Qin Hao's head. When that pair of big feet landed, Qin Hao would definitely be trampled into meat paste. Good timing! Qin Hao was overjoyed and dodged in time. The white ape missed its target and stepped into the center of the binding rope array. Swish! 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 In an instant, yak tendons filled the sky and rolled over like a woven net, falling down on the white ape's head. The white ape was wrapped round and round, but the yak tendons were extremely tough. Even though it was trapped and struggled, it was still firmly stuck. Its neck, waist, arms, and legs were all there was to be seen. Even a certain part of its penis was wrapped by a rope, causing the white ape to grimace in pain. Beast, it's time for you to die. Looking at the white ape that was tied up like a dumpling, Qin Hao pulled out the purple meteorite sword from his waist and used all his strength to aim at the white ape's heart. Swish! The sword stabbed out. Ding! Sparks flew. The white ape's pectoral muscles were as hard as steel plates. Qin Hao tasted something sweet in his throat and was sent flying. After landing, the white ape could not stand steadily and swayed. A trace of blood seeped from the corner of its mouth. Damn it! Qin Hao did not expect the white ape's body to be so tough. It was like copper skin and iron bones. This was troublesome. Even if he could trap the white ape, he could not break its defense. Roar! The white ape was attacked. Its eyes were red as if it had gone mad, and its thick arms flailed wildly. The surrounding old trees creaked as if they could not bear the heavy burden. The soil on the ground was loosening and the old trees were showing signs of being uprooted. What a terrifying guy! Qin Hao was shocked. 200-year-old trees and yak tendons could not trap it. Was this really a rank 5 beast? Without much time to think, Qin Hao closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. His tense body gradually relaxed and he slowly raised the purple meteorite sword in his hand. His movements were slow, but they gave off a familiar feeling. If Xiao Han was here, he would be shocked. Because Qin Hao's action was to activate the golden finger. He was prepared to use the sword in place of his finger, and use the sharpness of the purple meteorite sword to use a heaven-rank skill from his previous life. Only in this way could he kill the white ape. Roar! The white ape felt an unprecedented sense of danger and struggled more and more fiercely. Crack! An old tree was flung high into the sky. Crack! Second tree. Crack! Third tree. Crack! 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 Under the white ape's desperate struggle, the old trees continued to fly and the sky was filled with scattered mud. Just as it was about to break free, Qin Hao rushed forward with lightning speed. At this moment, the short sword emitted a sharp cold light and made a hissing sound as it pierced through the air. Once again, it attacked the white ape's heart. If it was hit by the golden finger, it would die without a doubt. Bang! However, an accident happened. Qin Hao accurately stabbed the white ape, and then he was sent flying while vomiting blood. At this moment of crisis, the white ape advanced. Rank 6 beast. White Ape King. Thump. Qin Hao fell heavily to the ground. The scene he was most worried about had happened. The white ape broke through its limit at the critical moment and transformed from a wild beast into a ferocious beast. Although there was only a difference of one word, the two were on completely different levels. Today was probably going to be a disaster. Roar. After the transformation, the white ape's body became even larger. It was 5 meters tall and looked like a giant. Its body was full of muscles and its dancing fists were chilling. It hated. It was angry. It was incomparably violent. In the next second after the breakthrough, he fiercely pounded on his chest twice. With bloodshot eyes, he rushed toward Qin Hao on the ground. Boom! Qin Hao only felt like he was hit by a train. His weak body flew into the air like a kite with a broken string and his consciousness instantly blurred. Roar! Looking at Qin Hao who landed, the white ape beat its chest and roared. The shameless human was finally killed. Not only did he cut Mr. Ape's buttocks, but he also tied it up and didn't even let go of its penis. Then, he was finally killed. The white ape roared 3 times and raised its head like a triumphant victor, ready to go back. As it turned around stunned. Chapter 21. Chapter 21 Thrust Breakthrough. White Ape was shocked and even amazed. Qin Hao was so weak that he was equivalent to a small rank 3 beast. He was actually still moving after taking a violent blow from a rank 6 king tier. No, he was preparing to get up again. Little Han is waiting for me to go home. How can I fall? I promised her. I will definitely win. Qin Hao's face was covered in blood, and his words were intermittent. An unyielding will was stimulating his mind. His pale fingers slowly bent and dug into the soil on the ground. He arched his body, like a lobster struggling for its life, and gradually propped himself up with his trembling legs. He was severely injured. Blood flowed down his cheeks and arms, and all the bones in his body were groaning. In fact, it was far more serious than that. At this moment, he was like a mirror full of cracks. Perhaps the slightest touch would cause it to shatter. What Qin Hao didn't understand was that when his life was in danger, he didn't think about revenge, nor did he think about the unfulfilled ambitions of an emperor. It was the young girl who was waiting for him to return home. A man's promise is as heavy as a mountain. Qin Hao clenched his teeth as the blood on his forehead blurred his vision. He slowly raised the purple meteorite sword in his hand. Seeing this, White Ape flew into a rage. Even at the brink of death, he still dared to provoke them. White Ape swung his feet, and like a heavy tank, he raised his heavy fist and smashed it mercilessly into Qin Hao's chest. Crack! With his bones shattered, Qin Hao was sent flying. His chest had caved in. His back crashed into countless trees, and he was sent flying 50 meters away before he could stop himself. This time, he didn't get up again. Roar! White Ape let out a carefree roar. The human was finally dead. Although he was very tenacious, and although no one knew why he was so stupid, he was still killed. White Ape stood where he was, breathing heavily. The opponent was clearly very weak, but it felt as if a great battle had broken out between it and Qin Hao. Just as it was about to leave in satisfaction, it was surprised to find that Qin Hao was still breathing. It saw Qin Hao's fingers tremble. That young man, he wasn't dead yet. White Ape was shocked. A look of fear appeared in his eyes, and he even felt his scalp go numb. Qin Hao endured 2 violent attacks, but he was still stubbornly resisting. At this moment, White Ape's anger became even more turbulent. As the king of the forest, it failed to kill a weak human after 2 attacks. It soared into the air and its pair of gigantic feet landed on Qin Hao's head. This strike would definitely crush his head and consign him to eternal damnation. Just a mere monkey, and I'm in such a sorry state. Ha ha, ha ha. At the brink of death, Qin Hao lay on the ground and laughed with all his might. If this had happened 600 years ago, his laughter would have scared his opponent to the point of wetting his pants. Because this was an omen of the vicious beast under his feet. In the next second, this was the most difficult blow that would make ghosts and gods his rebirth. He had prepared just as the white ape's foot was a foot away from rope formation's head, purple meteorite dazzling sword. Purple light he had almost died in the hands of this beast, and an unprecedented power was not an ordinary rank 5 vicious within beast, the purple light, but a vicious beast that was about to break through to rank 6 at a rate visible no to matter the naked what eye. I've won. His bones healed. Felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Chest muscles he had finally fulfilled his promise on his body were healed. He had now activated the heaven-ranked secret art from his previous life. A figure rushed from behind, protection, holding a machete, with the help of the divine artifact Great Void Cauldron. He wanted to take advantage of Qin-Hao's unpreparedness and cut him in half. His body that had fallen to the ground flew after up breaking like through to body tempering stage 4. One strike. His without any resistance was amazing. It pierced through his strength was much stronger than a body tempering. The moment it flew up 6 vicious it was at the same height the white as the 5-meter-tall white ape. The sword jumped stabbed forward, out, dodging the attack, and like took the opportunity to pull out the purple meteorite sword from the white ape's chest, clang through its heart. The machete did not hit Qin. Let out a shrill cry. Instead, it hit the white ape's chest. It launched a fierce counterattack. The skin. Two gigantic iron there was a burst of ruthlessly clamped down. Zhuang He raised his head and spat out a mouthful of blood. Qin-Hao didn't have time he almost to lost his grip on the machete in his hand. He condensed a finger. He was knocked back a few steps and almost fell on his butt. Blood splattered as his index finger pierced between. He was so angry that his eyes almost popped out of their socket. Attacking stopped halfway up the front of Qin-Hao's face. Zhuang Heba had just finished dealing with gigantic body crash. He realized that someone had angered the white ape king. He hurriedly limped to the top of the mountain, stepped on the corpse of the vicious beast, and the white ape king had been lured away by someone else. State, at that moment, body in tatters, he hated Qin. He gave off an incomparably tall feeling. He followed the trail. He had suffered 2 heavy injuries and thought he was going to die. He was shocked unexpectedly that the prey he had discovered that for so long had been killed by activated the divine. It was like going to Kentucky Fried Chicken cauldron. There were no egg trace of power was shaken out. Had to wait in line for an entire demon blood before the egg tarts was extremely powerful. However, even if only a small portion was swallowed by Qin-Hao, it was enough to heal all of Qin-Hao's injuries. He did not have to marry this opportunity. Women were just reverse charge. He could just throw them away after playing with broke them. Through to he wanted to be the hero 4. Of Akita Town. What was even more surprising shattered was that the indestructible reincarnation he could not be one anymore, and the blood essence seemed to could have only a tacit understanding as long as he killed Qin-Hao. The white his body tempering technique improved along with his realm. Did not instantly reaching body tempering actually dodged the sneak attack with 4 stacked together. One strike killed the overlord of the forest. Tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.